Chapter 1416. The Young Lady of the Een Family. 3. I told you not to worship me. Lil. Fire said a little sunderily, before burying his head under his own little body. Seeing this, Grape and Lotus Seed laughed even more happily. After laughing enough, the two of them started to worry. After all, they knew very well that Miss Lan was not to be trifled with. They also knew how the eldest branch would react after such a thing happened. The two of them exchanged glances. Grape looked at Lung Ruoxue, who had closed her eyes, and turned to leave Brightstream Garden. When she arrived at the main courtyard, Grape did not see the family head. The guard sent her away after saying that the family head was in seclusion. This situation made her heart feel heavier and heavier. Depressed, he returned to Mingxi Garden. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue was still sleeping, he shook his head at Lotus Seed. Grape then stood at the side without saying a word. After a while, Lung Ruoxue opened her beautiful eyes and looked at Grape and Lotus Seed, who had a worried look on their faces. She smiled and said, "What's wrong? I didn't see that old man." Her words were very certain, but Grape and Lotus Seed, who were worried, did not hear it. The guard said that the clan head is in seclusion. Grape told her the truth and then consoled Lung Ruoxue. "Young miss need not worry, you are the guest of the family head. I don't think the first branch would dare to do anything to you. They can't do anything to me, but they will take it out on you too, right?" Lung Ruoxue understood. Actually, she was very clear that the Een clan might not dare to do anything to her because she was brought back by the clan head. However, these two maidservants would definitely bear the wrath of someone on her behalf. Furthermore, she did not believe that the old man would go into seclusion. If she was not wrong, the old man should be hiding to watch the show. Since that was the case, she couldn't be blamed. If she didn't turn the Een family upside down, her last name wasn't Lung. Just as Lung Ruoxue had expected, the master of the Een family was not in seclusion. At this moment, he was in the study room with a kind-looking old man, admiring every movement in Mingxi Garden through the light screen. I've already said that this little girl is very bold and wouldn't be afraid at all. I've guessed it. The master of the Een family said proudly. You're beautiful. This little girl isn't afraid because she hasn't seen the direct descendant of the Een clan. If she sees your substitute clan head, how can she not be afraid? The old man said with a face of disbelief. In his heart, Lung Ruoxue didn't care about Xiao Lan and the others mainly because they weren't from the Een family. However, when this little girl directly confronted the direct lineage of the Een family, he didn't believe that Lung Ruoxue would still be so calm and composed. The old man who spoke was the great elder of the Een family. In the Een family, he had the highest authority other than the master. However, he was often in seclusion, so the members of the Een family rarely saw him. In fact, many of the members did not even know him. The substitute clan head he was referring to was the head of the first branch of the Een clan, which was Een Xiao's father. There were many people in the 8 great divine regions, and their status in the divine world was quite high. The patriarchs of the 8 great divine regions were the ancestors of their respective families, and these ancestors would naturally not lower their status to deal with other families. Thus, the 8 great divine regions also had the position of acting patriarch. The acting family head had great power. Except for some important matters that needed the final decision of the group of elders and the family head, the daily affairs of the family were generally handled by the acting family head. Therefore, without the intervention of the family head and the group of elders, the acting family head could be regarded as the head of the family. You're underestimating that girl. She's not even afraid of me, so why would she be afraid of our Een clan's acting clan head? Don't forget, he even calls me old man. Furthermore, instead of worrying about that little girl, you should worry about our Een family. Master Een reminded. He thought highly of Lung Ruoxue, but he wanted to know her true abilities and trump cards. Otherwise, she wouldn't have pushed him away for closed-door cultivation. The reason why he avoided meeting her was because he hoped that Lung Ruoxue could handle this matter herself. You're that confident in that little girl? The Een family's first elder was surprised. He was about the same age as the family head and had known him since they were young. However, other than those few old farts, he had never seen the family head so confident in any of his juniors. Seeing him like this, he even wanted to go and meet that little girl personally. Of course. Just wait for a good show. The master of the Yin family gloated. Seeing the excitement on his master's face, the Yin family's first elder broke out in a cold sweat for his family's junior. With such an ungrateful family head, the Yin family's juniors were in for a bad time. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue, who was in Mingxi Garden, was ordering grape and lotus seed to prepare dinner. However, the two of them were clearly distracted. Seeing them like this, Leng Ruoxue sighed and said, "Can you two be happy? This was just a small matter. Is there a need for all of you to be so frowning? Miss Lan is the niece of the first branch's madam. Now that something like this has happened, the first branch will definitely stand up for her." Furthermore, you may not know this, but the first master of the first branch is the acting family head of the Yin family. Now that the family head is in seclusion, the entire Yin family is dominated by him alone. Grape explained. Actually, what she didn't say was that if the master was not in closed-door cultivation, it would be fine. With the master's support, even if the eldest master was the acting master, he couldn't do anything to Leng Ruoxue. However, the key problem was that the master was in closed-door cultivation, and no one knew when he would come out. If there was no one to support Leng Ruoxue, wouldn't Leng Ruoxue be at the mercy of others? This was what she was most worried about. Grape, don't you think you're worrying too much? If your acting family head wanted to support his wife's niece, he would have long sent someone to settle the score with us. How could we still be so free and unfettered? Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile, not minding it at all. "Miss, this matter is very serious." Seeing how calm Leng Ruoxue was, Grape reminded her anxiously. "Calm down. Hurry up and prepare dinner. I'm hungry." Leng Ruoxue urged. "Yes." Grape and Lotus Seed responded, then turned around and left worriedly. Seeing the two maidservants leave, Leng Ruoxue sighed and lay back on the deck chair. Suddenly, a clear voice rang in her ears. "Were you the one who let your snake bite Xuan?" Leng Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and saw that the one who spoke was a girl around 15 or 16 years old. Although the girl wasn't very pretty, she was extremely cute. Her round, apple-like face was flushed red, and her large eyes with distinct black and white were fluttering her long eyelashes. She was staring at Leng Ruoxue without blinking, and her face was filled with curiosity. This little girl's strength wasn't very high either, only at the initial level of the deity stage. "I didn't eat. It was Little Fire who didn't like her, so he bit her." Leng Ruoxue chuckled as she tried to guess the girl's identity. She was dressed very fastidiously. Even though she was only a low-level deity, she was able to live in the deity world. This was enough to prove that this girl was a direct descendant of the Yin clan. Furthermore, she should be a direct descendant with very high talent. "It's Lil Fire? She's so pretty and cute." The little girl looked at the little red snake wrapped around Leng Ruoxue's wrist. Her clear eyes were filled with countless stars as she spoke with envy. "Little kid, you can't judge things by their appearance." Hearing Jingbei's words, Leng Ruoxue's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. She thought to herself, "Xiaohua may look pretty and cute on the outside, but his temper isn't easy to get along with." "Sister, I'm not a little kid, I'm already 16 years old." The girl protested. "Is 16 very old?" Leng Ruoxue was in a good mood as she teased. "I'm already an adult." In order to prove her words, Jingbei even puffed out her chest to show that she was not lying. "All right, you're an adult now." Leng Ruoxue glanced at the little girl's well-developed chest and said helplessly, "Yes, sister. I really admire you." Jingbei said to Leng Ruoxue with stars in her eyes, "What do you admire me for?" Leng Ruoxue couldn't understand. This was her first time meeting this little girl, so what did she have to admire her for? "You dare to let your snake bite Xuan, hee. I'm so happy." The little girl's face was filled with excitement. Leng Ruoxue could also tell that this little girl's happiness was definitely from the bottom of her heart. "Do you have a grudge against that Lady Lan?" Lung Ruox's face was filled with black lines as she asked. No grudges. I just don't like her. That woman is always putting on an act and using her power to intimidate others. I really hate her. The girl said with a look of disdain. Are you a member of the Yin family? Lung Ruoxue asked with uncertainty after hearing the little girl's words. Big sister, of course I'm from the Yin family. Furthermore, Xuan is my cousin. However, I don't like her. I'm so happy to see her get bitten by a snake today and her face is swollen like a pig's head. Sister, please don't give her the antidote. Just let her be like this for the rest of her life, so that she won't have any ideas about my brother. The little girl reminded him with an evil smile. Since you're a member of the Yin family and you don't like her, why would you allow her to flaunt her power in the Yin family? Lung Ruoxue couldn't understand. This girl's identity and status should be higher than Miss Lan's, but from her tone, it seemed like she couldn't do anything to Miss Lan. That woman is too good at acting. She's very obedient in front of my father, but she's very arrogant in front of others. I can't find anything against her, and with her father's support, no one will believe me. They will only think that I'm jealous of my cousin's beauty. Who would want to be jealous of her? The little girl's cute face was filled with disdain. Sister, you're even better looking than Xuan. I really like you. Jingbei said seriously. She looked at Lung Ruoxue with a perverted look in her eyes and was almost drooling. You're also very cute, and I like you very much. Lung Ruoxue replied politely. Little miss, what are you doing here? Suddenly, Grape's voice rang out from behind the two. Miss, she is the little miss of the Yin family, Yin Xian. Grape then introduced to Lung Ruoxue. Older sister, I am the youngest young lady in the Yin family, so they all call me little young lady. Yin Xian explained, her pink apple-like face still had a bit of blush. Big sister, you can just call me Xian. Yin Xian added. Yes. Lung Ruoxue nodded and continued, Xian, did you come here just out of curiosity? Hee. Actually, other than wanting to see big sister, I'm also here to deliver a message. Yin Xian's cute little face had a slightly smug look as she said. Chapter 14:17. The cutest Xian 1. Tip him off? So, you're a little spy. Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she teased. Sister, you don't know how scary that woman looks right now. She's wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. But father and mother don't have the time to settle scores with you right now. They've already found many pill refiners to come to the house to cure Xuan, but those pill refiners seem to be helpless. Yin Xian said with a gloating smile. Oh. Lung Ruoxue nodded her head and did not express any opinion. She waited for Yin Xian to continue. Sister, if the alchemists my father found can't cure Xuan's poison, he'll definitely come to find you. He'll even threaten and bribe you. But don't be afraid, my father is just bluffing. He won't do anything to you. After a pause, Yin Xian continued. You're the one who thinks he won't do anything to me, right? I'm not a member of the Yin clan. If he really wants to force me to hand over the antidote, I'm afraid it won't be as simple as just scaring him. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Yin Xian's words made several black lines appear on her forehead. She never thought that someone would say that her father was bluffing. It was likely that her father would only bluff to scare Yin Xian when she made a mistake. However, others might not have such treatment. Sister, you have to believe me. Father is really a paper tiger, he won't do anything to you. Yin Xian promised. Because you're his daughter, he's just a paper tiger in front of you. But he's never like this in front of others. Lung Ruoxue reminded him of their relationship. Is this the case? After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, Yin Xian's cute face revealed a confused expression. Of course, because he's your father. Although he scolds you sometimes, he can't bear to do anything to you. However, he doesn't have such concerns when it comes to outsiders. Lung Ruoxue understood. As the saying goes, parents all over the world have a pitiful heart. All parents wish for their children to be well-behaved and sensible. Other than this, cultivators also wish for their children to have outstanding qualifications. Only then would they have face and their family clan would go further. But why do I feel like he's like this to other people? Yin Xian muttered to herself. The others you're talking about are your own clansmen or in-laws, right? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. It seems so. Yin Xian thought for a moment and said with some embarrassment, but she couldn't help but think to herself, is her father really not a paper tiger? She was still skeptical about this. That's why I said that your father would never bluff in front of outsiders. Leng Ruoxue said with certainty. Yin Xian's father was the acting family head of one of the 8 great divine regions. If he was really a paper tiger that only knew how to scare people, why would that old man from the Yin family let him be the acting family head? A clan like this would never risk their clan's future. Sister, no matter how my father treats you, don't be afraid. My mother and I will definitely help you. Yin Xian saw that her previous words were no longer convincing, so she had to bring up her mother again. Your mother? Isn't she Miss Lan's aunt? Leng Ruoxue asked curiously. In fact, my mother doesn't like her very much either, and only maintains a superficial relationship. However, as long as I go and talk to my mother, she will definitely stand on your side. Yin Xian said with certainty. Hearing Yin Xian's words, Leng Ruoxue didn't know what to say. This family was really strange. The aunt and cousin didn't like their own niece and cousin, but the uncle seemed to love his niece a lot. What was going on? She was a little confused. Not only was Leng Ruoxue confused, even Grape, who was the maid of the Yin family, was confused by Yin Xian's words. She had never thought that the lady in charge of the first branch would not like Lady Lan. This was too unbelievable. However, she would not ask her own questions. After all, in a family like the Yin family, the most important thing to survive was to speak less and do more. Especially as a subordinate, it was even more forbidden to casually ask about the gossip of their master. This was a taboo in any family. Sister, please believe me. This time, I'm very certain. Yin Xian saw that Leng Ruoxue didn't say anything and thought that she didn't believe her, so she promised her anxiously. It's not that I don't believe you. Leng Ruoxue could not help but laugh. That's good. Yin Xian said happily. Sister, what's that smell? It smells so good. Suddenly, a faint fragrance drifted over with the wind. Yin Xian sniffed, took a deep breath, and asked curiously. It should be the fragrance of the dishes. Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Lotus Seed's dishes were not bad. However, as the young lady of the Yin family, she should have eaten all kinds of dishes, right? How could he be so sensitive to this smell? Sister, can you treat me to a meal? When Yin Xian heard that it was the smell of food, she couldn't help but ask. After she finished speaking, her face blushed with embarrassment. All right. Leng Ruoxue nodded and immediately instructed Grape to get Lotus Seed to prepare a few more dishes. When it was time to eat, Leng Ruoxue only tried every dish, but Yin Xian was very happy. Her small mouth was filled with food, and she didn't even have time to talk. When Leng Ruoxue saw Yin Xian's current state, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. How long had it been since this little miss of the Yin family had eaten? Why was she so hungry? After finishing her meal, Yin Xian saw Leng Ruoxue's confused expression and scratched her head in embarrassment. Hee. Big sister, this dish is really too delicious. Since you like it so much, Lotus Seed will be very happy. Leng Ruoxue said with a smile. Yes, Lotus Seed, why didn't I know that your cooking skills were so good? Yin Xian said with a face full of regret. I didn't have the chance to cook before. Lotus Seed explained shyly. Ever since she and Grape had started serving Leng Ruoxue yesterday, Miss Leng had been dissatisfied with the dishes the head butler had prepared for her. Hence, they had no choice but to personally cook according to Leng Ruoxue's request. That's true. Sister, can I come here often for free meals in the future? After hearing Lotus Seed's words, Yin Xian said to Leng Ruoxue. Chapter 14:18, The Cutest Xian, 2. Xian, if you like it, feel free to come and eat. Leng Ruoxue said generously. It wasn't her style to eat anyway, so she didn't mind having another gluttonous little pig like him. Sister, I won't stand on ceremony then. It's getting late, so I'll go back first. I'll come and accompany you tomorrow. Yin Xian stood up and left in a hurry. Watching Yin Xian's back as she left, Leng Ruoxue asked thoughtfully, Is Xian, doted on in the Yin clan? Young Miss. Little Miss is the Yin family's most pampered young miss from the direct line. On top of that, she has a biological older brother who is the young master, so Little Miss' status in the Yin family is very high. Grape replied. Oh. Leng Ruoxue nodded her head slightly. She then turned to Grape and Lianzi. After you're done, you can all go rest. I don't need you to serve me anymore. Yes, miss. The two of them saluted, cleaned the table and left the room. The next morning, Yin Xian came to eat. After breakfast, she came and went without a trace. When it was time for lunch at noon and at night, she would come back on time. After lunch, she would chat with Leng Ruoxue for a while before leaving. Seeing that Yin Xian had come to report on time, Leng Ruoxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Did this little girl think that this was a restaurant? Moreover, it was said that he had brought her some useful information, but she didn't think it was of much use after listening to it. What's more, Yin Xian didn't know when her father, the acting family head, would come to find her. It was said that he was busy looking for an alchemist to refine pills for Miss Lan. Xiaohu's poison was not something that an ordinary alchemist could cure. Moreover, it required Xiaohu's saliva. Strange, why didn't that substitute clan head send someone to get Xiaohu's saliva? Even though Leng Ruoxue was a little bewildered, she didn't think too much about it. However, regardless of whether the substitute family head would come or not, she was already prepared. At the same time, in another guest courtyard of the Yin residence, although it was already late at night, it was still busy. Many maidservants and guards were guarding the door of the room, and from time to time, painful moans could be heard from the room. This room was Miss Lan's room. At this time, the acting patriarch of the Yin family, her aunt, Yin Xian, and Xiao Lan's parents were all by her bed. Among them, Xiao Lan's parents were the most anxious, while Yin Xian looked indifferent. As for Yin Xian's mother, the acting patriarch's wife, her expression was normal, making it impossible to guess what she was thinking. Even the acting patriarch of the Yin family, Yin Ping, had a trace of worry on his face. Mother, I'm so uncomfortable. I don't want to live anymore. Lying on the bed, Xiao Lan's hands and feet were bound by a white cloth. She was trying her best to break free from the restraints, and in an instant, deep red marks appeared on her wrists and ankles. Lana, my good Lana, just bear with it. We've already gone to find the medicine. Madame Xiao's heart ached when she saw her precious daughter in such pain. Her hatred for Leng Ruoxue, who had caused her daughter to suffer, grew even more. After comforting her daughter, she turned to Yin Ping angrily and said, Brother-in-law, where is the person who harmed my daughter? Give her to me, I want to deal with her myself. I said that I would give you an explanation for this matter. As for that person, don't even think about it. Yin Ping said coldly. To be honest, he didn't like the way his sister-in-law questioned him. However, seeing that Xiao Lan was suffering, he wouldn't argue with them. However, it was impossible for him to hand Leng Ruoxue over to them, who asked his father, the head of the household, to bring Leng Ruoxue back. Hence, even though he promised them that he would give them an explanation, he would never dare to have any ideas about Leng Ruoxue. But could that person be related to brother-in-law? Madame Xiao asked angrily. What do you mean by that? Yin Ping asked somewhat angrily. These words couldn't be said carelessly, otherwise, if word got out, how would he manage his clansmen? I don't mean anything. Brother-in-law knows it clearly. Madame Xiao said coldly. She had heard from the guards at home that the person who had injured her precious daughter was a woman, and a very beautiful woman at that. Now that that woman was being protected by her brother-in-law and refused to hand her over to them, wasn't it obvious what kind of relationship they had? What does he know? At this time, Xiao Lin, who was standing next to Yin Ping, asked with a slightly displeased tone. Sister, you have to be careful that brother-in-law will make a small one for you. Mrs. Xiao said with a gloating expression. She had already made it very clear, so she didn't believe that her sister wouldn't understand. You shut up. Is this something you can say? Xiao Lin growled angrily. She never liked her sister-in-law and would never try to get close to her. However, she never thought that her sister-in-law would say something like that. It touched her bottom line. Seeing Xiao Lin's anger, Mrs. Xiao stammered. She was about to say something, but her husband pulled her arm, so she had to shut her mouth. Sister, she's talking nonsense because she's too worried about Lan Er's health. Please don't mind her. We all know that brother-in-law isn't that kind of person. Xiao Lan's father, Xiao Hua, said apologetically. It might have been better if he didn't say it, but after he said it, Xiao Lin became even angrier. You don't mind? Could it be that just because his daughter was injured, he could spout nonsense and slander others? That man was her brother-in-law. Did they ever think about their sister's feelings when they said that? It was all her husband's fault for loving the house too much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spoiled her own family. Her heart felt heavy when she thought about this. In fact, she really didn't need her husband to take care of these insensible family members for her. However, every time she said this, Brother Ping would think that she didn't want to put him in a difficult position and would do her best instead. Later on, she didn't say these words as long as these people didn't go too far and cross her bottom line. She could only turn a blind eye to it. But now, they had clearly crossed her bottom line, and this was something she absolutely could not tolerate. Seeing that Xiao Lin's expression was very ugly, Xiao Hua quickly helped her out of Xiao Lan's room. He coaxed her as they walked, but no matter how much he tried to coax her, he could not make Xiao Lin smile. Seeing that his sister was really angry, Xiao Hua was a little flustered. It must be known that he could call the wind and rain in the Xiao family all because of his sister. Chapter 1419, The Most Adorable Xian 3. Although Xiao Lin was not his biological sister, she was raised by his parents since she was young. The relationship between the two had always been very good. After Xiao Lin married into the Yin family, Yin Ping, his brother-in-law, took good care of them. So, over time, they became used to it, especially his wife and daughter. They simply regarded the Yin family as their own home. Because he also hoped from the bottom of his heart that his wife and daughter could be closer to this sister, he was naturally happy to see it happen. He also knew that his wife sometimes said things that were unpleasant to the ears. However, his sister had never minded it. However, this time, she was really angry. This made him feel a little uneasy. Sister, you also know that Ru Ping can't speak, don't take it to heart. Before sending Xiao Lin to her room, Xiao Hua still felt a little worried. Go back and look after Lan. You don't need to worry about me. Xiao Lin sighed. She still loved her brother, but she couldn't like her sister-in-law and niece. Sister, have a good rest, I'll go look after Lan. After Xiao Hua finished speaking, he turned and left. As soon as Xiao Hua left, Yin Xian jumped out of nowhere. Mother, are you all right? Yin Xian said worriedly. Just now in Xiao Lan's room, she had the impulse to beat someone up, but in the end, she restrained herself. After all, she didn't want to put her mother in a difficult position. I'm fine. Xian, why did you leave as well? Xiao Lin asked curiously. Didn't Xian say she wanted to gather information? He had actually left Xiao Lan's room. I'm just worried about mother. Yin Xian coyly held Xiao Lin's arm and said. In fact, she had seen enough of Xiao Lan's face. Now Xiao Lan's face could not be seen by anyone at all. Her whole face was swollen like a pig's head, and there were even signs of festering. She was terrified just by looking at it, so she didn't want to stay there any longer. So, after her mother left, she also found an excuse to come out. It's still Xian who cares about mother the most. Xiao Lin said with a little resentment. From her tone, Yin Xian knew that her mother was blaming her father for not comforting her. Mother, father is also very concerned about you, but you also know how tolerant father is to Xiao Lan and the others. So, don't blame him. Yin Xian consoled. Mother was just casually saying. Xiao Lin said and then changed the topic. Oh right, how's Leng Ruoxue doing these past 2 days? Very good. I ate well and slept well. Yin Xian said with a smile. Isn't she worried that we'll blame her? Hearing Yin Xian's words, Xiao Lin was curious about Leng Ruoxue. Logically speaking, Lung Ruoxue should be a little scared when she let her beast bite Lan, right? However, from Xian Er's words, it seemed as though the other party was treating it as though nothing had happened. This was really too strange. However, she then recalled that Lung Ruoxue had been brought back by her father-in-law. Even if her husband wanted to touch Lung Ruoxue, he would not dare to do so easily. Could this be the other party's trump card? Sister really doesn't seem to be worried, Yin Xian said after some thought. Even though she had told Lung Ruoxue more than once that she didn't need to worry about her father and that she would help her, she really didn't see a single trace of worry on Lung Ruoxue's face. Xian, bring me to meet that Lung Ruoxue tomorrow. Xiao Lin said after thinking for a while. Mother, if you want to stand up for Xiao Lan, then I advise you not to go. I really like that sister. Yin Xian reminded. Oh, it's rare for my daughter to fall in love with an outsider, and you don't even like Xiao Lan. Hearing Yin Xian's words, Xiao Lin chuckled and teased her. I've never liked her since I was young. Mother, it's not like you don't know. Yin Xian was very disapproving of her mother's teasing. I know. Xian, has good taste, unlike your muddle-headed father. Xiao Lin sighed and said helplessly. The main reason why her husband loved Xiao Lan was that Xiao Lan resembled her when she was young. That was why he loved her even more. When she found out about this, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She couldn't see how Xiao Lan looked like her. Father was just deceived by that woman. Who asked that woman to be so good at acting? Yin Xian spoke up for her father. Xian, remember to bring mother to see that Lung Ruoxue tomorrow. Xiao Lin reminded. All right, mother. Have an early rest. I'll come to find you tomorrow. After Yin Xian finished speaking, she left with a happy face. The next morning, Yin Xian took Xiao Lin to Mingxi Garden. Looking at the beautiful woman in her early 30s, Lung Ruoxue understood that this person should be Yin Xian's mother. However, the mother and daughter really didn't have any similarities. Yin Xian's mother was very beautiful, and Yin Xian was cute. After Xiao Lin saw Lung Ruoxue, her beautiful eyes kept sizing her up. She was full of admiration in her heart. What a devastatingly beautiful woman. When she saw Lung Ruoxue, it was not hard for her to imagine why her niece would have a conflict with her. Hello. I'm Xian Er's mother, Xiao Lin. Xiao Lin introduced herself. Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue said softly. I've always heard Xian talk about you. I finally have the chance to meet you today. Xiao Lin said with a smile. I also often hear Xian mention her mother. Madam Yin, did you come here today just to see me? Lung Ruoxue chuckled and asked directly. Yup. Xiao Lin replied with a smile. She did not expect Lung Ruoxue to be so direct. However, it was not hard to understand. Based on her relationship with Xiao Lan, it was no wonder that others would misunderstand. I thought that Madame Yin would come and question me. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. I don't care about her. Xiao Lin said directly. That's good. I like Xian a lot, and am friends with Big Brother Yin. I also have a good impression of you, so I really don't want anything to happen between us just because of Miss Lan. Lung Ruoxue confessed. You know Xiao? Xiao Lin didn't expect Lung Ruoxue to recognize her son. She was shocked, but she admired Lung Ruoxue's honesty. This was how a person should be. What's the point of wearing a mask all day? Yes, I met Brother Yi on the godly mainland. Lung Ruoxue explained simply. I see. Looking at Lung Ruoxue's strength, Xiao Lin understood that she must have come from the godly mainland. However, why did her master bring such a beautiful woman to the godly realm? She couldn't quite guess her master's motive. Sister, I didn't expect you to know my brother. You and our Yin family are really fated. I wonder when Big Brother will come back. I'm starting to miss him. When Yin Xian heard Lung Ruoxue's words, she was extremely excited. Big Brother Yin should be back soon. Lung Ruoxue guessed. If Brother Yin knew that she had been taken away by his grandfather, he would definitely return. No, brother can't come back now. Suddenly, Yin Xian seemed to have thought of something and quickly said, Why? Lung Ruoxue and Xiao Lin said in unison. After hearing Yin Xian's words, both of them were puzzled. Xiao Lan is here. If Big Brother returns, they will definitely take the opportunity to make Big Brother marry her. Yin Xian's face was full of worry. She didn't want that woman to become her sister-in-law. If that happened, she would be depressed to death. You underestimate Brother Yin. Although Brother Yin looks gentle, no one can force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. Leng Ruoxue replied calmly. Even though she had not spent much time with Yin Xiao, she could tell that Big Brother Yin was not an easy person to get along with. Even though he always had a smile on his face, people like that would find it hard to accept others. You don't know your brother as well as Xue. Xiao Lin chuckled as she looked at Leng Ruoxue. Her gaze became gentler and gentler, and she even addressed her as Xue. Furthermore, the more she looked at Leng Ruoxue, the more satisfied she was with her. She just did not know why the master of the family had brought Leng Ruoxue back to the Yin family. Mother, I'm just afraid that Big Brother will be soft-hearted. Didn't you say that men like to have tender feelings for women? Yin Xian said with an aggrieved expression. Xian, men have to be considerate of women according to their partners. If you treat every woman with tenderness, you can't have this kind of man. Leng Ruoxue reminded him with an evil smile. Xue is right. Xiao Lin nodded in agreement. Yes. Yin Xian nodded her head heavily and continued, Mother, did Xiao Lan's injured father say anything again? Xue, can you let me take a look at your snake? Xiao Lin suddenly said after hearing Yin Xian's words. Little Fire, Madame Yin wants to see you. Leng Ruoxue rolled up her sleeves, revealing Fiery, who was wrapped around her wrist. Is this the snake that bit Lanner? I really couldn't tell that such a small snake's poison was so powerful. Xiao Lin said in shock. She had never thought that Xiao Lan and the others would be bitten by such a small snake. It should be known that there were many kinds of snakes in the divine realm, and some of them were poisonous. However, those poisons could be detoxified with just one antidote pill. For those more poisonous ones, they would usually be fine after taking a good antidote pill. However, Xiao Lan's poison was getting worse the more she took the antidote pill. When she went to see Xiao Lan this morning, she found that her face had begun to fester. She was shocked at the time. Xiaohu's poison can't be cured by an ordinary antidote pill. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. The other party did not come to ask for Xiaohu's saliva, so it was almost impossible to cure Xiao Lan and the others. Really? Then how can we get rid of the poison in Xiao Lan and the others' bodies? Yin Xian asked curiously. We need to use Xiaohu's saliva. Leng Ruoxue explained calmly. Sister, then you have to keep a close eye on Lil, Fire. I'm afraid they'll come to steal the snake. Upon hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Yin Xian quickly reminded her. Xue, do we really need this little snake's saliva to cure the poison in Lan Er's body? Xiao Lin asked thoughtfully. Yes. Could it be that Madame Yin wants me to give them Lil, Fire's saliva? Leng Ruoxue said. I'm just annoyed that they're crying and making a fuss all day. But this snake is yours, and the one they've provoked is you. If you want to give it to me, it's fine. If you don't want to, it's fine. You don't have to give me face. Xiao Lin was afraid that Leng Ruoxue would misunderstand, so she quickly explained. Chapter 1420, A Bet, 1. Actually, it's not impossible to give them Xiaohu's saliva. However, you can't give it to them easily. Leng Ruoxue said with a faint smile. She had agreed to give Xiaohu's saliva to the other party because of the Yin family. However, since the other party's biological aunt had already made it clear and didn't care whether she gave it to them or not, why should she give this free favor? Furthermore, with Miss Lan's personality, if you were to give it to her so easily, not only would she not be grateful to you, but she would also hate you even more for making her suffer. Therefore, Leng Ruoxue would never do something that would take a long time and not give you any benefits. If you want Lil, Fire's saliva, sure. But he had to pay a corresponding price. Right? We can't give it to them so easily. We have to make them bleed a lot and let Xiao Lan suffer for a few more days. Yin Xian suggested after hearing Leng Ruoxue's words. Hee. Hearing Yin Xian's indignant words, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but chuckle. Just how much did Yin Xian hate that Miss Lan? After all, she was her cousin, but she was so hated by her. Miss Lan was also quite a failure in life. She probably only cared about pleasing the elders and ignored the existence of Yin Xian. She guessed in her heart. Sister, don't laugh. I'm telling the truth. Yin Xian said, somewhat annoyed. I know you're telling the truth, okay? Leng Ruoxue coaxed. Sister. Yin Xian acted coquettishly as she tugged at Leng Ruoxue's sleeve and said with a hint of resentment. All right. I won't tease you anymore. Don't worry. Didn't I say that I wouldn't easily hand over Lil Fire's saliva to them? Leng Ruoxue promised. That's good, sister. Lil Fire's poison is so powerful. Do you know? Xiao Lan's face has started to fester today. It's so scary and disgusting. Yin Xian said with a face full of fear. That's normal. If she had received treatment a few days later, she probably wouldn't have been able to keep her face. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Arg. It's true. Yin Xian was shocked. Xiao Lan cared about her face the most. If she really couldn't keep it, Xiao Lan would probably go crazy. Xue, are you telling the truth? Xiao Lin quickly asked. She was thinking about the consequences if Xiao Lan's face was destroyed. Yes, if they can't get Xiaohu's saliva and refine it into a pill within 3 days, then Xiaohu's saliva will be useless, and her poison will never be cured, and it will often relapse. Leng Ruoxue explained with a smile. Xiaohu's poison would be completely cured after 3 days even without the antidote. However, this recovery was just an illusion. After a few days, it would still relapse, and the frequency of relapses would increase. The pain would be 10 times or even 100 times more than now. This was also the strong point of Xiaohu's poison. What will happen if it reoccurs? Yin Xian asked curiously. It will be at least 10 times more painful than now. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. Arg. Wouldn't that be killing her? Now, she's on the verge of death. Yin Xian was left speechless. She really didn't expect that the little snake's poison was so powerful. I won't take her life, because it's not easy for her to even want to die. Leng Ruoxue corrected, implying that the poison would make Miss Lan's life a living hell. Lil Fire is really amazing. Yin Xian said as she looked at the little flame on Leng Ruoxue's wrist with both love and fear. Little girl, don't be afraid. I don't bite people randomly. Feeling Yin Xian's gaze, Little Fire raised its little head and comforted her. Oh, can you not call me little girl? Yin Xian discussed. Then what should I call you? A woman? But I can't see how you look like a woman. Lil Fire said honestly. Which part of me doesn't look like a woman? Yin Xian said, somewhat hurt by her self-esteem, and even deliberately puffed out her towering peaks. This little snake actually said that she didn't look like a woman. He really had no taste. It doesn't look like anything. Lil Fire said in disdain. Sister. Lil Fire is bullying me. Yin Xian realized that she couldn't win against Little Fire, so she turned to Leng Ruoxue for help. Little Fire is just teasing you. Leng Ruoxue smiled as she tried to smooth things over. Women. I'm going to sleep. Lil Fire yawned and lazily closed its eyes. You're sleeping so early in the morning? Seeing that Lil Fire ignored everyone's existence and really closed his eyes, Yin Xian said in surprise. Little Fire likes to sleep. Leng Ruoxue said hurriedly. Xian, you silly girl. Beastie's sleep is also a form of cultivation. Xiao Lin laughed as she watched her precious daughter interact with Lil Fire. She found it amusing no matter how she looked at it. This little red snake was too cute. Oh. Yin Xian nodded, not fully understanding. Xue, you wouldn't mind if I told my brother about the news you just told me, right? At this moment, Xiao Lin asked Leng Ruoxue. Although she didn't like Xiao Lan, she couldn't just watch a girl disfigure her face. She knew how important looks were to a woman in the divinity. I don't mind. I just want you to tell them. Leng Ruoxue laughed. That's good. Xue, tell me what conditions you have. Xiao Lin said, relieved. I'll tell them. I only have 3 conditions. First, Xiao Lan has to personally apologize to me, Grape, and Lotus Seed. Second, of course, she has to compensate us for the mental damage we have suffered. Naturally, it's to pay for Lil Fire's saliva. Lung Ruoxue stated the 3 conditions nonchalantly, and these 3 conditions were not something that she came up with on the spot. Good. No problem, Xiao Lin nodded. Lung Ruoxue's 3 conditions were reasonable. After all, it was Xiao Lan and the others who were the unreasonable ones. Seeing how confident Xiao Lin was, Lung Ruoxue didn't think she would agree to her conditions so easily. However, that wasn't something she should be concerned about, and she didn't mean to make things difficult for her. After Xiao Lin chatted with Lung Ruoxue for a while more at Mingxi Garden, she left with Yin Xian. After they left, Grape couldn't help but ask, Miss, the Xiao family will definitely not agree to the 3 conditions you mentioned. Although she was a maidservant, she knew the 3 people from the Xiao family very well. They were not the kind of people who would pluck hair from their own bodies. Asking them to compensate was no different from asking for their lives. Chapter 1421, A Bet 2, How do you know it won, T? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. Miss, I'm not like those 3 from the Xiao family that I just met today. They only know how to freeload at the Yin family. If you want them to pay for compensation, the sun will rise from the west. Grape said with absolute certainty. Grape, why don't we make a bet? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. A bet? Miss, I don't have anything of value. Grape said honestly. I don't need anything. I just need to agree to 1 condition. Lung Ruoxue explained. That's good. Let's bet. Miss, I bet that the Xiao family won't pay any compensation, and the Yin family will have to pay for it in the end. Grape said confidently. After all, this was not the first time such a thing had happened. If it's the Yin family paying the compensation, you win, Lung Ruoxue said. Good. Miss, I'm definitely going to win. Grape said happily. Grape, it's too early to be happy. I've never lost a bet before. Don't underestimate your enemy. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a smile. Miss, I know that family very well, and I won't lose. Grape said with confidence. That's good. Then let's wait and see. Lung Ruoxue laughed in an enigmatic manner. After Xiao Lin and Yin Xian left Mingxi Garden, they went straight to the courtyard where Xiao Lan and the others were staying. However, when she told Xiao Hua and his wife about Lung Ruoxue's condition and the method to cure Xiao Lan's injury, she did not see their gratitude as she had hoped. Instead, she was blamed and blamed by them. Sister, this woman was really too much. She clearly hurt Lan, so how could she put forward such a rude condition? This was really preposterous and bullying. Do you think there's no one in the Xiao family? Do you think our Yin family is easy to bully? Ru Ping roared in anger. Aunt, what does this have to do with our Yin clan? They asked for it from you, not from us. Please don't casually mention our Yin family, otherwise, if the other members of the Yin family heard it, they would misunderstand. Yin Xian reminded. The adults are talking. Why is a child like you interrupting? Hearing Yin Xian's words, Ru Ping said unhappily. I'm no longer a child. Yin Xian's face was red as she said loudly. She said this because it was not appropriate for her mother to say it, but the other party used her being a child as an excuse. It was really ridiculous. When Xiao Lan interrupted, why didn't she say that Xiao Lan was also a child? Sister, Xin'er is really too unruly. When the elders are talking, it's not her place as a child to interrupt, and she even talked back to the elders. Seeing that Yin Xian didn't give her any face, Ru Ping turned to Xiao Lin and complained. How can my child not know the rules? Was there anything wrong with what she said? The Yin clan is the Yin clan, and the Xiao clan is the Xiao clan. They really shouldn't be mixed together. Xiao Lin didn't want to argue with this sister-in-law. After all, it wouldn't be nice if this kind of thing spread out, and it would also damage the Yin family's reputation. However, her mistake was that she shouldn't have said that Xian or didn't know the rules. Which parent would be willing to hear others slander their precious daughter? Sister, don't be angry, Ruping was too worried about Lan. That's why she spoke without thinking. Please be magnanimous and don't mind her. Seeing that Xiao Lin was getting angry again, Xiao Hua quickly spoke up. He kept giving his wife a look, signaling her to shut up. In his opinion, his sister was his biggest backer, and he could not get into a conflict with her because of his daughter. It would not be good for his position in the Xiao family, and it would only benefit the other members of the Xiao family. I won't argue with her, but I'll make it clear to you today. I'm here to tell you this news out of goodwill, but it's fine if you don't appreciate it. However, this matter was caused by Lan, and now she's asking for compensation before she's willing to give you the little snake's saliva. Our Yin clan won't interfere in this matter, so don't expect the Yin clan to compensate you for this, Xian. Let's go. After Xiao Lin finished speaking, she left Xiao Lan's room with Yin Xian expressionlessly. After leaving the room, Yin Xian said excitedly and exaggeratedly, "Mother! You really are my mother. I'm so touched." Silly girl. When has mother not been on your side? Xiao Lin said helplessly. There were some things that she didn't say because of her brother, but her sister-in-law shouldn't have accused her daughter of being unruly in front of her. This was something that no parent could tolerate. Mother, I feel that it's not enough for us to only know about this matter. We have to tell father about it. Otherwise, if father is soft-hearted, he might help them pay the compensation. In fact, it's not like they can't afford the compensation that sister asked for. Yin Xian reminded. Before she and her mother had left Mingxi Garden, her elder sister had given them a list of the items that Leng Ruoxue had requested for compensation. On that list, both of them had contributed a little because they had given their opinions. After all, no one knew better than them what the other party could offer. Xiao Hua was not the head of the family yet, so there was a limit to what he could offer. Therefore, if Leng Ruoxue's request was beyond what they could afford, the Yin family would be the one to pay the compensation. This was something that Yin Xian did not want to see. Thus, after Yin Xian expressed her thoughts, Leng Ruoxue agreed to compensate Xiao Lan's family as much as they could. They'll find a chance to talk to your father. Xiao Lin nodded. Mother, don't look for an opportunity, let's go find father now and talk about this. Otherwise, if uncle and the rest were to get there first and father agreed, then we would have worked in vain. Yin Xian quickly said, You little girl, fine. Then let's go find your father and tell him. Xiao Lin said with a helpless smile. I knew that mother is the best. Yin Xian said with a fawning smile. Then, the mother and daughter went to Yin Ping's study room. However, at this time, Yin Ping was discussing some matters with the elders. When Yin Ping finished his discussion and came out of the study room, he saw his beloved wife and daughter sitting on the stone chairs in the courtyard waiting for him. Sister Lin Xian, why are you guys here? Yin Ping said with some surprise. Chapter 1422, A Bet 3. Father, we're here to talk to you. Yin Xian held Yin Ping's arm and said coyly. Oh, what was it? You even came all the way here to find me? Yin Ping didn't understand. At this moment, a guard came over and reported, Acting Patriarch, Xiao Hua has sent someone to invite you. He said that he has something to tell you. What's the matter? Yin Ping frowned and said with obvious displeasure. These few days, he had been annoyed to death by the couple. He had never thought that they would be so annoying before. However, he was getting more and more impatient with them. Yin Xian and her daughter saw Yin Ping's expression and laughed in their hearts. It seemed that the other party also wanted to tell Yin Ping about this matter, but unfortunately, they were the first ones to do so. With them around, Yin Ping naturally couldn't leave them to see Xiao Hua. After all, his wife and daughter were the most important. The person didn't say. The guard also felt Yin Ping's displeasure and quickly said, You go and tell the person that I have something to do now and will be there later. Yin Ping thought for a moment. He definitely could not go over. If he didn't go over, Xiao Hua and his wife would keep sending people to find him. Now that his wife and daughter had something to tell him, he naturally had to take care of his wife and daughter first. Yes. The guard replied and turned to leave. Sister Lin Xian, you can speak your mind now. After the guard left, Yin Ping spoke again. When his wife and daughter heard the guard's report, he didn't miss the expression on their faces. "Mother, you can tell father," Yin Xian said. "Yeah." Xiao Lin nodded, then told them about Leng Ruox's request and their visit to her. After Yin Ping heard this, his brows furrowed even deeper, and he didn't say a word. It was unknown what he was thinking. Xiao Lin and Xian saw his expression and didn't disturb him. After a while, "If Xiaohua wants to see me, it's also about this matter, right?" "Yes." Xiao Lin and Xian nodded. "Sister Lin, in the past, whenever Xiaohua had any problems, he would always ask me for help. If I don't help him this time, I'm afraid he'll have other thoughts." Yin Ping said with some difficulty. He understood the meaning of his wife and daughter. They wanted Xiaohua and his wife to pay the compensation themselves. However, how could that couple be willing to pay the price? "Father, it's precisely because you've meddled too much in the past that we can't meddle with them this time. This matter was originally Cousin Lan's fault and Sister Shui has evidence. If the elders of the clan find out about this evidence, you can forget about convincing the public as the acting patriarch in the future." Yin Xian reminded. "It's that serious?" Yin Ping said as he looked at his wife and daughter. He only knew that Xiao Lan had a conflict with the people living in Mingxi Garden and was beaten up by their beastie. However, he didn't know the exact reason. Xiao Lan's guards had all come to the same conclusion and insisted that it had nothing to do with Xiao Lan. That was why he was in a difficult position. If it had nothing to do with Xiao Lan, then it could only be the other party's provocation. However, that woman was brought back by his father. If he didn't say anything and just dealt with her, then it would be a big problem. He also had no way of explaining it to his father, the head of the family. Thus, he could not make up his mind. "Yes." Xiao Lin and Yin Xian both nodded. They had seen the evidence in Leng Ruox's hands, so they were even more determined to not help Xiao Lan this time. Otherwise, their husband and father would be in trouble. Seeing that his wife and daughter were so certain, Yin Ping naturally made up his mind. However, he still said to Xiao Lin apologetically, "Sister Lin, although I really want to help Lan, this time," he said. Before Yin Ping could finish, he was interrupted by Xiao Lin. "Brother Ping, you've already done enough. I can't let you be blamed by your clansmen for what happened to the Xiao family." She knew that Yin Ping's protection of Xiao Hua's family over the years had caused many clansmen to be dissatisfied. The reason why Xiao Lan dared to show off in the Yin family was also because she had her husband's support. Otherwise, how could she have such courage to not even put her own daughter in her eyes? Xiao Lin was a very protective person. Originally, Xiao Lan was her niece, and she doted on her. However, Xiao Lan used her love to bully Xian. If she had not accidentally overheard the conversation between Xiao Lan and the maidservant, she would probably still dote on Xiao Lan as much as she did before. Ever since then, she found Xiao Lan more and more unpleasant to the eye. Xiao Lan was so obedient in front of her, but she was so arrogant in front of others. She didn't even care about her daughter. This was something she couldn't tolerate. "Sister Lin, thank you for your understanding." Yin Ping was very touched because his wife was a sensible person. Over the years, although his wife had told him not to take care of Xiao Hua's family, he still did his best to take care of them out of his love for his wife and the gratitude of Xiao Hua's parents for raising his wife. He also knew that it was because of his protection that Xiao Hua's family's status in the Xiao family was getting higher and higher. Even in the Yin family, no one dared to look down on them just because they were in-laws. At least on the surface, that was the case. He knew that some of the clan members were dissatisfied with Xiao Hua and the others, but he ignored them. After all, they were his wife's relatives. "Brother Ping, you've done enough for me. Xiao Hua is already an adult, so let him handle the future matters by himself." Xiao Lin said bluntly. This was also what she meant. "Good. I'll listen to you." Yin Ping said affectionately. Seeing her parents looking at each other affectionately in front of her, even forgetting about her existence as a daughter, Yin Xian was both happy and conflicted. She was happy that her parents had a good relationship and there were no group of annoying half-brothers and sisters at home, but conflicted that in front of her parents, she had become heir. Should she be more tactful and go to the side to play? Yin Xian thought. At the same time, Yin Xian didn't disturb her parents' love and quietly slipped away. By the time Xiao Lin and Yin Ping reacted, there were only the two of them left in the large courtyard. The two of them looked at each other and smiled, then went back to their rooms hand in hand. After staying with Xiao Lin for a while, Yin Ping unwillingly went to the courtyard of Xiao Hua and the others. Chapter 1423. A Bet for Brother-in-Law. You've finally come. As soon as Yin Ping entered Xiao Lan's room, Ru Ping cried with snot and tears. Yin Ping saw this and frowned slightly, then said indifferently, "What happened to you? Brother-in-law, you have to help our Lan. Was there any justice left in this world? They bullied my Lan, and now they want us to compensate for their mental loss. They were really bullying him. Do you think our Xiao family is easy to bully?" Just as Yin Ping asked this, Ru Ping began to speak in rapid succession. If he had not heard his wife and daughter's conditions beforehand, he would have thought that they had gone too far. However, he knew very well that Xiao Hua could afford the conditions. All these years, with his protection, Xiao Hua had taken a lot of money from his family. Now, they were crying and quarreling with him only because they wanted him to pay the compensation to save Xiao Lan. However, he had promised his wife and daughter that he would not interfere in this matter. Therefore, no matter how much they cried and quarreled, no matter how hard they tried, he would not care. It was all useless. After crying for a while, Ru Ping's heart sank when she saw that Yin Ping didn't say a word. Then she cried again. "Brother-in-law, Xiao Lan is your most beloved niece, so her business is your business. You can't just stand by and do nothing. Are you done?" Yin Ping, who was annoyed by the noise, roared. His roar scared Ru Ping so much that she didn't dare to cry anymore. "Brother-in-law, you have to help Lan." Ru Ping sobbed and said softly, "I've heard about this from Sister Lin and discussed it with the elders of the family. The elders think that this matter was caused by Lan, so you should deal with it yourself. Our Yin family will not interfere in this matter." Yin Ping brought out the elders and said, "Brother-in-law, how could this be? Lan got into trouble in your Yin family. You also promised to give us an explanation." Ru Ping and Xiao Hua quickly said, "I said I'll give you an explanation because you told me this had nothing to do with Lan. However, as far as I know, this was caused by Lan. Shouldn't you tell me the truth?" Yin Ping asked indifferently, "Brother-in-law, you've watched Lan grow up. Don't you know what kind of child she is? How could she do such a thing?" Ru Ping quibbled guiltily. "You know better than me whether she can do it or not. Let's not talk about this now. You'd better quickly prepare the compensation that the other party wants. Saving Lan is more important. As for the other things, wait until Lan is better. You must gather all the items within 3 days. Otherwise, you will be responsible for the consequences." Yin Ping coldly reminded, "Brother-in-law, they were the ones who injured Lan, and now Lan has fainted from the pain. Why should we compensate them? This was simply too unreasonable. This kind of thing couldn't be explained anywhere, right? Besides, even if there's a need for compensation, they should be the ones paying us." Ru Ping reminded him with dissatisfaction. "The thing that can save Lan is in his hands now. He wants you to compensate him. Can you refuse?" Yin Ping said unhappily. He really didn't want to ask if they were close, but he had to remind them. "Brother-in-law, your Yin clan is one of the 8 great divine domains and has a transcendent status in the divine realm. No matter what identity that woman has, since she's currently living in the Yin clan, she'll have to obediently hand over the snake's saliva with just a word from you. We don't need to waste our time." Ru Ping said with a fawning smile. "That woman won't listen to me. You'd better do as she says. I can't help you with this." Yin Ping didn't even think and rejected. "Brother-in-law, what's the identity of that woman? Even you can't do anything to her?" Ru Ping asked curiously. She wouldn't say that the girl had an ambiguous relationship with Yin Ping now, in case they annoyed him again. Then they wouldn't be able to come to the Yin family in the future. Yin Ping was their big backer, so they couldn't defend him. It's none of your business who she is. In short, don't mess with her. Prepare the compensation she asked for in 3 days. The most important thing is to save Lan. Yin Ping once again reminded him. Before knowing his father's intentions, he didn't dare to touch that girl. He had already said what he needed to say. As for whether Xiao Hua's family would do as he said, that wasn't something he could control. 3 days later, Leng Ruoxue didn't receive compensation from the other party as she had hoped. However, she didn't seem to be in a hurry. She continued to lie on the deck chair leisurely and bask in the sun. Seeing this, Grape chuckled and teased, "Miss, you've lost our bet." Chapter 1424, True Colors Revealed, 1. Grape. I didn't lose and you didn't win. Don't forget who we've bet on paying the compensation. The Xiao family hasn't paid the compensation yet, and the Yin family hasn't paid for them either, so our bet isn't over yet. Leng Ruoxue chuckled. But miss, it's already been 3 days. Grape reminded. Yes, I asked them to send the compensation and the money to buy Small Fire's saliva within 3 days, but they refused to send it over, so we can't do anything about it. So, our bet isn't over yet? Leng Ruoxue laughed. Miss, do you mean that the bet will continue? Grape asked with some uncertainty. Why not continue? They'll definitely send the compensation over, it's just a matter of a few days. Leng Ruoxue said confidently. She could even guess the main reason why the other party was not willing to follow her instructions and send the compensation over. It was because Xiao Lan's injuries were showing signs of improvement. The truth was just as Leng Ruoxue had guessed. Ever since Leng Ruoxue had stated her conditions, Xiao Hua and his wife had discussed for a long time. They had even looked for Yin Ping a few times, hoping that the other party would compensate them. However, Yin Ping had not relented. At the same time, Xiao Lan's injuries had also shown signs of improvement, so they had not thought much of it. In 3 days, the swelling on Xiao Lan's face had subsided, and the festering parts had begun to form knots. Her appearance was slowly recovering. Seeing this, Xiao Hua and his wife were even more relieved. As for Xiao Lin's warning, they had completely forgotten about it. In the room, Xiao Lan sat in front of the dressing table. Looking at her restored appearance in the mirror, she was very happy. That damned snake and woman had caused him to suffer for so many days. He would definitely not let them off. Thinking of this, she summoned the maidservant and whispered something in her ear before the maidservant left the room. Lanta, what did you just say to the maidservant? Sitting by the bed and looking at her daughter, Ru Ping asked curiously. It's nothing. I told her to send people to help me keep an eye on the 3 people from Brightstream Garden. If there's a situation, immediately come and tell me. They caused me to suffer for so many days. If I let them go, would I still be Xiao Lan? Xiao Lan said viciously, a sinister look flashing across her beautiful face. After all, this is the Yin family. Because of you, we have already made them unhappy. If we cause any trouble at this time, it will not be good for us. Ru Ping reminded. Mother, I know what to do. You still don't trust me. Xiao Lan said in a spoiled manner. Of course, I'm at ease with Lan. But your father. Ru Ping stopped halfway, for she suddenly remembered that Lan had just recovered from her injury. She didn't want to tell her about this, or she would be annoyed. Mother, are you trying to say that aunt and uncle are a little dissatisfied with you? Xiao Lan said. Although she had been in a daze most of the time these past few days, she could still hear some of their conversations. Your father went to look for Xiao Lin many times, but Xiao Lin didn't see him, and Yin Ping didn't either. They had really gone too far. Is this what an elder sister and brother-in-law should do? As soon as she thought of the cold treatment she had received in the past 2 days, Ru Ping had a stomach full of complaints. Originally, it was fine if her daughter didn't know. She didn't intend to say it now to annoy her daughter. But since her daughter knew, there was no harm in saying it. Mother, you shouldn't be complaining. We should be thinking about how to make aunt and uncle treat us the same as before. After all, we can't do without their support. In contrast to Ru Ping's anger, Xiao Lan was still very calm. She knew very well that without the support of her aunt and uncle, her family would never have the status they had today. Therefore, she was not willing to give up such a backer no matter what. Who asked her to still think about the position of the future mistress of the Yin family. Of course I know that. But they don't even want to see us now. Ru Ping couldn't help but mutter. That's why we should think about how we can salvage the situation. Mother, come with me to visit aunt and uncle later. My injuries have healed, so I have to thank them properly. They won't reject this reason again, right? Xiao Lan said with a smile. What Lan said makes sense. Ru Ping nodded. Even if Xiao Lin and Yin Ping were dissatisfied with the couple, they wouldn't refuse to see Lan. After all, Lan had been doted on since she was a child. With Lan around, their relationship would definitely improve, she thought confidently. After Xiao Lan had dressed herself up in front of the dressing table, she took Ru Ping to the courtyard where Yin Ping and Xiao Lin lived. As soon as they arrived at the courtyard, they heard a faint laughter coming from inside. Xiao Lan immediately felt a little upset because she was very familiar with this voice. It was her cousin's voice. She was laughing so happily now, so she must be chatting with her aunt. In the past, when she chatted with her aunt, she would also smile very happily. However, she didn't know when it started, but their relationship became colder and colder. Although she kept trying to please her aunt was always indifferent to her. This made her puzzled no matter how much she thought about it. She really couldn't remember what she did wrong to anger her aunt. After entering the courtyard, Xiao Lan saw her aunt sitting on a stone chair in the garden. Yin Xian was talking to her in a very low voice, and she even laughed happily from time to time. Immediately, jealousy welled up in her heart. Why was Yin Xian so happy? All of this should have been hers. However, it was taken away by Yin Xian. She had to regain her position in her aunt's heart. She couldn't let Yin Xian be so proud. After she made up her mind, she quickly walked in front of Xiao Lin and bowed respectfully. She then slowly said, Aunt, Lan is here to visit you. Lan is better? He should be resting in his room, how can he run around? Xiao Lin looked at Xiao Lan and said with a faint smile. In fact, what she meant was, don't run around the Yin family and don't come to her place. However, she knew that Xiao Lan would definitely not understand the hidden meaning of her words. Even if she did, she would pretend not to know. Chapter 1425, True Colors Revealed 2. Thank you for your concern, Aunt. Your niece's body is fine now. Xiao Lan stood next to Xiao Lin very politely and even tried to fill Xiao Lin's cup with tea. However, the teapot was snatched away by Yin Xian. Yin Xian smiled. Cousin's body has just recovered. It's not good for her to overwork herself. Just leave this kind of rough work to me. Younger Biao's sister is thoughtful. Xiao Lan said as she suppressed her anger. Lan, if there's nothing important, you can go back to your room and have a good rest. I won't be sending you off. Xiao Lin said. Aunt, Lan is here to see you. Xiao Lan said in a slightly aggrieved tone, and a layer of mist appeared in her beautiful eyes. Sister. Lan Er's injury has just recovered, and she's in a hurry to see you. Look at how filial she is. Ru Ping also chimed in. I know that Lan is filial. I appreciate it. However, Lan Er's body has just recovered, and I can't bear to see her overwork herself, so I'd better let her go back to her room to rest. Xiao Lin said with concern. Ru Ping seemed to want to say something, but she was pulled back by Xiao Lan, so she kept quiet. I'm really grateful for Aunt's care and concern. I'll go back first. I'll come back to see you in a few days. Xiao Lan said in a very understanding manner. After she finished speaking, she bowed to Xiao Lin, then turned around and left with her mother. Out of the yard, Ru Ping asked unwillingly, Lan, we're leaving just like that? What else can we do? Let's go and see Uncle. Xiao Lan suggested. Ru Ping nodded and then the two walked toward Yin Ping's study. However, when they reached the door of Yin Ping's study, they couldn't go in because the guard at the door told them that the substitute family head had important things to deal with and wouldn't see anyone. The two of them had no choice but to return to their own residence. In fact, Yin Ping didn't go to the study room today. He stayed in his room and watched his wife and daughter talking and laughing in the garden. When Xiao Lan and her daughter came, he saw them, but he didn't go out. After they left, Yin Ping opened the door and walked into the garden. "Father, you're finally willing to come out." Yin Xian, who was chatting with her mother, teased Yin Ping after seeing him. "You little girl, you even dare to tease your own father. You're really looking for a beating." Yin Ping patted Yin Xian's head as a token gesture. "Mother, look, father actually hit me. You have to make the decision for me." Yin Xian pouted her pink lips and complained. "Bad girl, you're getting naughtier the older you get, good hit." Xiao Lin said with a smile. "Mother, how can you forget your daughter when you're with her?" Yin Xian's mouth pouted higher and higher. He pretended to be dissatisfied. Haha. Living in such a family clan, there was no way one could live as they wished. Therefore, she was really envious, jealous, and hateful of Lung Ruox's carefreeness. "If you want to, you can be as free as me." Lung Ruoxue opened her beautiful eyes and smiled. "AI. It's easier said than done." Yin Xian sighed and said helplessly. "The key is whether you want to be carefree or not. How strong is your desire to be carefree?" Lung Ruoxue reminded. "Sister, of course I want to be like you, but I have too many things I can't let go of, so I can't do what you're doing." Yin Xian said with a bit of distress. Although she was still young, her future had already been arranged, and she had no choice. Chapter 1426, True Colors Revealed 3. Xian, you're still young, don't think about these annoying things. What's the matter? Lung Ruoxue changed the topic. Sister, can't I just come and find you for no reason? Yin Xian pouted her little mouth and pretended to be dissatisfied. You haven't been here for a few days. There must be something going on today. Lung Ruoxue said with absolute certainty, a faint smile on her beautiful face. I'm really here for something today. Yin Xian felt a little embarrassed when she heard Lung Ruox's words. What's the matter? Lung Ruox's face was full of, "See, I was right." Sister, the wounds on Xiao Lan's face have all healed, and she's no different from before. What's going on? Yin Xian asked, somewhat puzzled. Didn't I tell you? She has to take a pill to detoxify her injuries within 3 days. Otherwise, even if she recovers, it will relapse. Once it reoccurs, it will become more and more serious, and there will be no medicine to cure it. Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. The Xiao family would not be willing to fork out the money for the next 3 days, so they would have to bear the consequences themselves. Sister, then when will her injury relapse? Yin Xian asked curiously. This is hard to say. However, it's best for her not to eat some stimulating food, or else the relapse will be faster. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Stimulating food? What do you mean, sister? Yin Xian asked with a face full of question marks. It's best not to eat fish and the like. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Arg. Xiao Lan loves to eat fish, and she would eat it almost every 2 or 3 days. If I don't let her eat fish, she won't be able to take it. Yin Xian exclaimed. Oh, I think you can kindly remind her not to eat fish. Lung Ruoxue smiled indifferently as she suggested. But I don't want to. Yin Xian immediately objected. She couldn't wait for Xiao Lan's injury to relapse. Who cared what she ate? She's your cousin after all. If you show her some concern, you can show your kindness. Sometimes we still have to act. Lung Ruoxue reminded. What if she doesn't eat fish anymore after I remind her? After hearing Lung Ruox's words, Yin Xian said in distress. She'll listen to you? If she listens to you and stops eating fish, the poison will take longer to take effect, but it's not impossible for it to relapse. What are you worried about? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. She could tell that Yin Xian did not just hate her cousin. In fact, the reason why she had asked Yin Xian to remind Xiao Lan was not only to give Yin Xian a chance to show her affection, but also because she was sure that Miss Lan would not listen to Yin Xian. Instead, she would think that Yin Xian was deliberately trying to provoke her and make her remember the painful experience. Xiao Lan was such a self-righteous and ungrateful person. No matter what she did, she would always think that she was not in the wrong and that the fault was always with others. If others' words or actions did not suit her, they would be going against her. She had seen people like Xiao Lan before, but it was rare to see someone as outrageous as her. What my sister said makes sense. Since that's the case, it'll do her a favor. However, she won't be grateful to me. Yin Xian said, clearly aware of the situation. It's her business whether she's grateful or not. You just have to do what you should do. Leng Ruoxue said calmly. Sister, you're so bad. But I like it. Yin Xian said softly. After she finished speaking, she chatted with Leng Ruoxue for a while more before leaving Mingxi Garden impatiently to return the favor. Watching Yin Xian's back, Grape asked in confusion, Miss, why was little Miss so happy? Isn't it just to deliver a letter? She's gloating over my misfortune. Leng Ruoxue said in understanding. She then instructed Lotus Seed, Lotus, go and tell the guards outside the courtyard that there seems to be suspicious people near Brightstream Garden and have them pay more attention. Ever since the matter of Miss Lan had occurred, the head butler of the Yin clan had arranged for guards to be stationed outside Brightstream Garden. In the name of protection, it was actually to prevent the same thing from happening again. Who asked her to have such a powerful little snake? Yes, Miss. Lotus Seed replied. After bowing, she turned and left. Miss, how do you know that there are suspicious people outside? Grape's face was full of admiration. Miss didn't even leave the house and still knew that someone was secretly monitoring her outside. She was really amazing. Weren't you the one who told me? Leng Ruoxue raised her eyebrows and teased. Did I? Grape's face was full of question marks. She couldn't remember saying such words to Miss. Besides, she didn't have any evidence. Of course I do. Leng Ruoxue nodded with certainty. The truth was, Grape had never told her about it. She could only tell from Grape's face. Who asked this girl to go out once and come back with a long face? It made it impossible for Leng Ruoxue to pretend that she did not see it. Moreover, she did not think that it was a big deal to be monitored outside. The people sent by the head butler were also monitoring her brazenly. I've forgotten. Grape said gloomily. It's okay, everyone has times when they forget things. Leng Ruoxue was laughing in her heart, but she still spoke in a comforting tone. At this time, Lotus Seed walked in from outside, accompanied by the guard outside Brightstream Garden. In the guard's hand was a short, ordinary-looking man. The man's face was full of fear and guilt. Miss, we've caught him. Lotus Seed said happily. Oh, you've caught him so quickly? Leng Ruoxue was a little surprised. She really didn't know if it was because the Yin family's guards were highly efficient, or if the person monitoring them was too stupid. How could they be caught so easily? She didn't feel a sense of accomplishment. Miss, he's too stupid, hiding in the tree in broad daylight and wearing such eye-catching clothes. It's impossible for us to pretend not to see him. Lotus Seed helplessly pointed at the man's white clothes. Pfft. Hearing Lotus Seed's words, Grape could not help but laugh. It seemed that the other party was really too stupid. Leng Ruoxue was also very helpless about this. So the other party had sent this person here to add to their laughingstock. Chapter 1427, True Colors Revealed. 4. Let him go. Leng Ruoxue's forehead was dripping with cold sweat as she spoke indifferently. Miss, how can we let him go so easily? Lotus Seed was somewhat puzzled. Didn't Miss send her out to catch this person? Now that they've been caught, why are they letting them go without even asking? If we don't let him go, are we still going to let him stay for dinner? Leng Ruoxue reminded. Then let him go. Lotus Seed understood. Miss was disdainful of this person for being useless. When the guard heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he gave a slight bow and left with the man who was so frightened that his face had turned pale. After they left, Grape could not help but ask, Miss, do you know who sent that person? Do you still need to ask? Leng Ruoxue asked with a smile. But it's also possible that they were sent by someone else from the Yin family. Grape reminded. Because of Xiao Lan's incident, many people in the Yin family knew about the existence of the young lady and were very curious about her identity. So, wasn't it normal to send people to monitor her? If the Yin family wants to know my identity, they can just ask your head butler. However, they will not be interested in my every move. Leng Ruoxue was very certain. Then what did Xiao Lan want to do by sending people here? Right now, she can't enter Bright Stream Garden, and the young lady can't leave. After hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Grape frowned and said in a conflicted manner, "Why are you thinking about this? No matter what her goal is, she will only reap what she sowed in the end." After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she lay back on the recliner and closed her eyes. At the same time, Yin Xian also went to Xiao Lan's residence. In the room, Xiao Lan indifferently looked at Yin Xian and coldly said, "Xian, why did you suddenly think of coming to see me? Back in the garden, you clearly didn't want to see me." "Cousin, you're right. I don't want to see you. However, I've received some news that has something to do with you, so I'm here to tell you. We're relatives after all," Yin Xian said with a smile. "What news?" Xiao Lan was a little puzzled. She didn't think that her cousin, who had hated her since she was young, would tell her anything useful. "Cousin, didn't uncle and auntie tell you that your injuries are only temporary? I'll relapse after a while, and it'll get more and more serious each time?" Yin Xian asked curiously. In fact, she knew that her uncle and aunt wouldn't tell Xiao Lan about this, so she asked this on purpose. "What are you talking about? Are you cursing me?" As expected, Xiao Lan said angrily after hearing Yin Xian's words. "Cousin, I'm telling the truth. How could I curse you? Originally, your injury could have been completely healed, but unfortunately, uncle and aunt can't bear to part with money, so I'm afraid that there's no way to detoxify your poison forever. However, as long as you don't eat stimulating food, the speed of the relapse should be slower," Yin Xian said with a faint smile. "Don't you talk nonsense in front of me. I know you're jealous of me, so you're trying to make me angry, right? I won't fall for your trick. Yin Xian, you're just a little girl, how could you possibly win against me? Aunt and uncle love me the most. If I tell them these words, which side do you think they will stand on?" After calming down a little, Xiao Lan suppressed her anger and said, although Yin Xian's words made her very angry, she could not be fooled by Yin Xian. She would not believe Yin Xian's words. "Cousin, since you don't believe me, then I have nothing to say. However, I still have to tell you, don't eat fish and other stimulating food. Otherwise, your face will still rot." Yin Xian reminded him again, but she was secretly laughing in her heart. Her sister was right. Xiao Lan didn't believe her. "Pa!" As soon as Yin Xian's voice fell, her lovely face was slapped, and half of her face immediately swelled up. At this time, Xiao Lan's door was suddenly opened. Seeing Xiao Lin, Yin Ping, and her parents appear in her room, Xiao Lan was stunned. She even forgot to take back her hand that was raised in the air. "Aunt, uncle, why are you guys here?" After coming back to her senses, Xiao Lan quickly withdrew her hand and asked with an embarrassed expression. She didn't expect to be caught red-handed when she hit Yin Xian. What should she do? Her mind turned quickly and she was extremely anxious. Chapter 1428, As a Witness, 1. "We're here to see you, but we didn't expect to see this," Xiao Lin said coldly. Then, she walked to Yin Xian and said with a distressed look, "Xian, poor child. You don't have to come and see her anymore. Aunt, this is all a misunderstanding. It's none of my business. It was younger cousin's sister who provoked me, so I accidentally hit her." After Xiao Lan heard Xiao Lin's words, she quickly explained. However, it might have been better if she didn't explain. After she explained, Xiao Lin became even angrier. "Misunderstanding? You dare to hit her for a mere misunderstanding. If it wasn't a misunderstanding, wouldn't you have killed her?" Xiao Lin said angrily. She knew that Lan always bullied her daughter in private, but she had never found any evidence. She didn't expect to catch it this time. How could she let go of such a rare opportunity? Therefore, from the beginning, she didn't plan to let Xiao Lan off easily. "Aunt, How would I dare? I know that my younger cousin is your precious. How would I dare to bully her? I was really angry this time, and I made a mistake. Aunt, uncle, please don't be angry with me. I'll apologize to my younger cousin. Xiao Lan's voice was choked with sobs, and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. After she finished speaking, she knelt on the ground with a plop and looked up at Xiao Lin and Yin Xian. Cousin, please forgive me. I didn't mean it. Xiao Lan said to Yin Xian. Cousin, what are you doing? Hurry up and get up. I can't afford it. Seeing this, Yin Xian also quickly said and bent down to help Xiao Lan up, but Xiao Lan refused to stand up. Yin Xian had no choice but to give up. However, she wouldn't let Xiao Lan put on a show of self-pity. Did he think that he would be fine after hitting her and kneeling down? How could it be so easy? This time, she wanted to settle both old and new scores. Thinking of this, Yin Xian said with a heavy heart, Cousin, are you forcing us to forgive you? Although you've always bullied me in private in the past and even hit me this time, I really don't blame you. Who asked you to be in a bad mood? I can understand, but you've already beaten us. If you force us like this, even if we forgive you this time, we'll still feel uncomfortable. Why do you have to do this? What's more, I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you this with good intentions, but not only did you not believe me, you even hit me. Yin Xian's cute face was full of grievances. Xian, what are you going to tell her? Xiao Lin heard Yin Xian's words and quickly asked. Before, when they had just walked into the room, they had heard the sound of a slap coming from inside, so they had quickly pushed the door open and entered, so they were not very clear about what had happened. Didn't I go to see my sister? She told me that cousin's injury would relapse again, but if she ate stimulating food, the relapse would happen even faster. After I heard this, I immediately came to tell cousin, but she didn't believe me. She even said that I was cursing her. Then he hit me. Yin Xian also said with tears in her eyes. Was what Xian said true? This is the misunderstanding you were talking about? Xiao Lin glared at him and questioned him loudly. Aunt, my injury has just recovered and younger Biao's sister came to say such things. If it was anyone else, they would be angry. Xiao Lan explained in a low voice. Sister, no one can stay calm when it comes to this kind of thing. Lan didn't mean it, so please forgive her. Ru Ping tried to smooth things over. She was afraid that this matter would anger Xiao Lin and her husband. Without their protection, the Xiao family would step on them. They were used to being arrogant in the Xiao family. Without their support, the Xiao family would take the opportunity to hit them when they were down. And cousin, I know it's my fault this time. I wasn't calm enough. Cousin, beat me up to vent your anger. As long as you're willing to forgive me for my unintentional mistake. Xiao Lan said with a sincere expression. Cousin, if you think that I can make up for your unintentional mistake by hitting you back, then you're gravely mistaken. If a dog bites you, can you bite the dog back? Yin Xian said with a faint smile. Since Xiao Lan kept saying that it was an unintentional mistake, then she could only treat Xiao Lan as a dog. However, wasn't this a little sorry for the cute dog? Her heart was filled with regret. Xian Er's right. This matter isn't about you slapping Xian and Xian returning a slap to you. We already know the cause of this matter, and Lan I also want to tell you that everything Xian has said to you is true. I've said these words to your parents before, but they don't believe me and even hope that they'll be lucky. As a result, you can only bear the consequences yourself. Xiao Lin's tone was very cold. After that, she took Yin Xian and turned to leave Xiao Lan's room. Aunt! Sister! Xiao Lan and Xiao Hua shouted in unison, but Xiao Lin didn't even turn around. Brother-in-law! Look at this, it's just a fight between children, please don't take it to heart. Xiao Hua saw that Yin Ping was still there and said with an embarrassed expression. What a good fight between children. Lan, Xian said you used to bully her in private, is that true? Yin Ping asked with a cold smile. Uncle, how could this be possible? You also know how willful younger Biao's sister is. Xiao Lan said nervously. She didn't even dare to look at Yin Ping. If it was before today, she might have been able to deny it. However, after she was caught red-handed hitting Yin Xian, she wasn't so confident. Seeing Xiao Lan's guilty expression, Yin Ping already knew what was going on. He never thought that the Xiao Lan who was always so well-behaved and sensible in front of him would always bully his daughter in private. He still remembered that every time Xian complained to him, he would always side with Xiao Lan. Now that he thought about it, he was already so old, but he was still being played around by a little girl. It was really embarrassing. Besides, he also felt a little sorry for his daughter. Thinking of this, Yin Ping said, "Lan, Heir's injury doesn't seem to be a big deal now, so you can pack your things and go back to the Xiao family tomorrow. Don't come here anymore." "Brother-in-law, how could you do this? Are you trying to drive us away? Don't forget, you said you would give us an explanation." When Ru Ping heard that they had to leave, she immediately roared in dissatisfaction. Xiao Lan, on the other hand, didn't say a word and kept crying. Chapter 1429, As a Witness, 2. What kind of explanation do you want from me? Haven't I taken enough care of you all these years? But how did you repay me? I haven't even gotten an explanation for bullying my daughter in private. Don't you think you should give us an explanation? I don't think you need to wait until tomorrow. Pack your things and leave now. After Yin Ping finished speaking, he turned around and left without looking back. After receiving Yin Ping's orders, the Yin family's guards personally watched as Xiao Hua and his family of 3 packed up their things and personally sent them out of the Yin family's main residence. After Yin Ping left Xiao Lan's room, he went straight back to his own residence. Seeing that Yin Xian and Xiao Lin were talking and laughing in the room, and their mood was not affected, Yin Ping's heart was finally at ease. Seeing that her daughter had really grown up, she would probably be crying right now if it was the old her. "Xian, how was it? Does your face still hurt?" Yin Ping had just stepped into the room when he asked with a face full of concern. "I'm fine now, father. Mother has applied some medicine on my face." Yin Xian said with a smile, obviously in a good mood. "What are you two talking about? Why are you smiling so happily?" Yin Ping saw that the swelling on his daughter's face had indeed subsided, so he changed the topic. "I don't know where Xian heard this joke from, but she's telling it to me right now." Xiao Lin said with a smile. "Oh, Xian should tell father about it too." Yin Ping said, "Father, that joke doesn't suit you. By the way, how's uncle's family doing?" Yin Xian asked curiously. Xiao Lan had been caught red-handed when she hit her, so her father wouldn't let them off easily, right? "I've already invited them back to the Xiao family. They don't have to come here anymore." Yin Ping said indifferently. After he finished, he looked at Xiao Lin with some worry and said, "Sister Lin won't blame me, right?" "Brother Ping, why would I blame you? You've taken care of them enough, but they're not satisfied and want more. Besides, I know that Lan has bullied Xian a lot in the past, but Lan is too scheming, and I've never been able to find any evidence against her. This time, even if Brother Ping doesn't chase them away, I can't tolerate them anymore." Xiao Lin was still a little angry. After she finished speaking, she glared at her daughter resentfully. This girl had just told her that she could have avoided Xiao Lan's slap, but she deliberately did not do so to leave evidence. "Sister Lin, since you knew that Lan bullied Xian a lot, why didn't you tell me?" Yin Ping grumbled. "Father, I've complained to you a lot when I was young. However, you've never sided with me, and Mother doesn't have any evidence. You also dote on Xiao Lan so much, so even if we tell you, you won't believe us." Yin Xian reminded her with an evil smile. She knew her father too well. No matter what her father did, he would always pay attention to evidence. Therefore, if she wanted him to stand on her side, she must have evidence. Otherwise, it would be useless no matter what she said. And Xiao Lan's previous efforts would all be in vain because of the irrefutable evidence this time. Xiao Lan would probably be very angry. When she thought of this, her mood became extremely excited. She felt that the slap was worth it. In the past, I was wrong. Who would have thought that Xiao Lan, who looked so well behaved on the outside, would always bully my daughter in private? Yin Ping said with an embarrassed face. Father, I'm not the only one she's bullying. Many clansmen of the Een family have been bullied by her, but those clansmen don't have a father who is the current patriarch or a brother who is the young master, so they all dare not speak out. Een Xian said honestly. This kind of thing won't happen again. Father will never let them come to our house again. Een Ping promised. This is great. Een Xian nodded happily. She would never see Xiao Lan at home again, and this fact made her feel particularly good. Just as Een Xian's family of 3 was chatting, a guard suddenly walked in and whispered a few words to Een Ping. After Een Ping heard this, his face immediately became ugly. After the guard reported, he turned and left. Seeing this, Xiao Lin and Een Xian both asked in confusion, "What happened?" Xiao Hua's family followed Een Bang to the second branch's courtyard to stay. Een Ping sighed. What did Xiao Hua and the others want to do? Don't they know what the second household is planning? After Xiao Lin heard this, she growled angrily. The Een family's first branch and second branch had been at odds for a long time. The first branch was led by his husband, while the second branch was led by Een Bang. Although Een Bang was a concubine's son, he had always believed that his aptitude and ability were no less than his husband's. Why should his husband be the substitute head of the family while he could only obey because of his lower status? This fact made Een Bang rather angry. She had been secretly trying to make things difficult for her husband. Xiao Hua and the others were aware of this, but now they were involved with them. Suddenly, Xiao Lin felt a deep disappointment in her heart. She felt that she had raised an ungrateful wolf who had betrayed her husband. Mother, they've always been that kind of people. It's not worth it to be angry with them. Don't be angry and harm your health. Een Xian saw her mother's expression and knew that her mother was angry. However, her uncle's family was not sensible people and her uncle could not make any decisions at home, so she was not surprised at all that they could do such a thing. Sister Lin, don't be angry. Although Een Bang always opposed me, Xiao Hua probably has no value to them. The only thing they can do is to sow discord between you two, but after Xiao Lan hit Een Xian and I kicked them out, there's no longer any friendship between us. Xiao Hua's family probably hates us because of this, so even if Een Bang wanted to destroy it, he wouldn't have the chance. Een Ping consoled her in a gentle voice. In truth, when he first heard the news, he had felt very uncomfortable. Although he had chased Xiao Hua and the others out and even told them not to come back here in the future, if Xiao Hua really had some difficult things to do and needed his help, he would still help them. After all, he was his wife's brother. He just didn't think that Xiao Hua and the others would be so disappointing to get together with Een Bang, and Een Bang's goal was obvious. Chapter 1430, As a Witness, 3, Brother Ping. This was their fault to begin with, and it was fine if they didn't know how to repent, but how could they get together with Een Bang and the others? Don't they know what kind of person Een Bang is? Xiao Lin said with disappointment. Sister Lin, since things have come to this, there's no point in getting angry. We can only take one step at a time. I hope they don't do anything that can't be undone. Een Ping said helplessly. I hope he can take care of himself. Xiao Lin sighed. Father, Mother, let's not think about these unhappy things. What will happen to Uncle's family in the future can only depend on them. We can't always help them like this. They're not kids anymore, they know what they're doing. Een Xian also reminded. Xian has really grown up to actually be able to say such a thing. Hearing Een Xian's words, Xiao Lin couldn't help but smile. Xian is much more sensible than before. Een Ping also laughed. Father, Mother, I've always been so sensible. I'm not going to talk to you guys, I'm going to play with my sister. Een Xian said, a little embarrassed. After that, she turned around and ran away. Looking at Een Xian's back, the two looked at each other and smiled. Een Xian was like a happy bird as she flew into Mingxi Garden. Sister, I'm here to see you. Een Xian shouted excitedly. Lung Ruoxue, who was napping on the deck chair, lifted her eyelids and looked at the happy Een Xian. She smiled and said, if I didn't remember wrongly, Xian seemed to have left not too long ago. Why did she come back so quickly? Sister, Don't you welcome me? Hearing Lung Ruox's words, Yin Xian said with an aggrieved expression, You are the Yin family's most pampered little princess. How could I not welcome you? Lung Ruoxua chuckled as she teased. That's more like it. Sister. I'm here to tell you the good news. Yin Xian's face was mysterious. Could it be that Miss Lan's injuries have relapsed? It can't be that fast. Lung Ruoxua guessed suspiciously. Of course not. When I listened to elder sister's words and went to tell her about this, she was so embarrassed that she hit me. My parents happened to see her, so my father asked uncle's family to leave the Yin family. Yin Xian said with a proud smile. And then? Lung Ruoxua waited for her reply. Who knew that when they were leaving, one of my uncles, Yin Bang, would invite them into his courtyard? When Yin Xian thought of this, she became a little distressed. Although they didn't want their uncle to be with Yin Bang, they couldn't go to Yin Bang's yard to chase him away, so they could only let nature take its course. That Yin Bang has a conflict with you? Lung Ruoxua said. Yes. Yin Xian nodded. In fact, it was all her ancestors' fault. Her grandfather, who was many years older than her, had married too many women. That was why there were so many descendants and it was so troublesome. However, she only dared to complain in her heart and did not dare to say it out loud. Don't worry, it should be fine. Lung Ruoxua consoled. I hope so. Yin Xian sighed, her face filled with helplessness. Little girl, you've learned how to sigh at such a young age. Lung Ruoxua laughed as she scolded. Sister, I'm really worried. Although uncle looks mighty outside, he has to listen to aunt and cousin when he's home. So, I'm afraid that uncle will be affected by those two women and hurt my mother. Yin Xian said worriedly. Don't look at how she pretended not to care in front of her mother, but in reality, she was still very worried, mainly because she was afraid that her mother would be hurt. Madam Yin is not as weak as you think. Don't worry. Lung Ruoxua laughed. This little girl was really too concerned. In her opinion, Xiao Lin was a successful career woman. She wouldn't be defeated so easily. I hope I'm just too nervous. Yin Xian said, a little embarrassed. This is normal. Lung Ruoxua admired Yin Xian's protective heart towards her mother. Just as the two of them were chatting, a few guards suddenly walked in from outside the courtyard. When they saw Yin Xian, the guards bowed respectfully and said to Lung Ruoxua, Miss Ling, right? Grape and Lotus Seed have violated the Yin family's rules and are now in prison. We are under orders to bring you to be a witness. What witness? The grapes and the lotus seeds are just going to take the things your head butler gave me. What kind of family rules have they broken? Lung Ruoxua sneered as she questioned him. He was really trying to frame her. No wonder Grape and Lotus Seed had not returned after such a long time. They had been locked up. Who sent you? Don't you know that elder sister can't leave Bright Stream Garden? Hearing the guard's words, Yin Xian also quickly asked. She was very sure that this order was not given by her father. Fortunately, she was here, otherwise, her sister would definitely misunderstand her father. It was the elders who gave the order. The guard replied. Which elders? Yin Xian asked. Although the major matters of the family needed to be discussed with the elders before the final decision could be made, the daily affairs of the family were basically decided by her father, and a small matter like arresting a few clansmen who had violated the family rules didn't need the elders to come forward at all. What's more, this order was given by the elders, so did it mean that they had hidden this order from her father? Thinking of this, she was even angrier. These people clearly didn't put her father in their eyes. This was preposterous. This order was given by Elder Bang and the others. The guards saw that Yin Xian was a little angry and did not dare to hide it. Moreover, this kind of thing could not be hidden. Yin Bang. He was really bold. Does my father know about this? Yin Xian said angrily. She didn't think that Yin Bang would come looking for trouble so quickly. I don't know if the acting clan head knows. The guard quickly said. He was not willing to become cannon fodder in the battle between the direct descendants of the Yin family, so he was quite cooperative with Yin Xian. Then do you know that Grandpa Patriarch doesn't allow elder sister to leave Brightstream Garden? Yin Xian asked again. I don't know about that. I'm only here on orders to invite Miss Lung to be a witness. I hope Miss Xian won't make things difficult for me. The guard said with a bitter face. He didn't expect Miss Xian to be here. He was afraid that he couldn't complete his mission. If you can take me out of Bright Stream Garden, I don't mind being a witness. Lung Ruoxue said indifferently, her tone turning colder. Miss Lung, we're here to invite you because we're confident in our chances. Please come with us. The guard spoke and kept his head lowered, not daring to look at Lung Ruoxue. If that's the case, then I'll go with you. Lung Ruoxue stood up from the deck chair and was about to leave with the guards when she was pulled back by Yin Xian. Sister, don't go with them yet, I'll go and tell father. Yin Xian said, a little worried. Don't worry. I'm only going to be a witness. That elder bang won't do anything to me. Lung Ruoxue said confidently. She was getting tired of waiting for Miss Lan to make her move these few days. It was a good time to go out for a walk and stretch her muscles. Besides, she wanted to show some people that Canary had a temper too. Lead the way. Lung Ruoxue turned around and said to the guards. Miss Lung, please. The guards said solicitously. When they had come, Elder Bang had said that they had to be polite to this Miss Lung and not use violence. Seeing Lung Ruoxue leave with the guard, Yin Xian was stunned. After she regained her senses, she remembered that she had to quickly tell her father about this. Immediately after, she ran out of Bright Stream Garden. Lung Ruoxue followed the guards out of Mingxi Garden's main entrance without any hindrances. When she saw this scene, she could not help but chuckle in her heart. It seemed like Elder Bang had long prepared for this. This was even better. She did not like opponents who were too weak, and she hoped that Elder Bang would not disappoint her. The guards led Lung Ruoxue to a side courtyard and left her there before turning to leave. Lung Ruoxue went with the flow and found a place to sit down. Her beautiful eyes kept on sizing up the scenery in the courtyard. This courtyard couldn't be compared to the Mingxi Garden she lived in, because this was clearly an abandoned courtyard. Other than a few stone benches, there were only some trees and weeds that weren't very dense. Miss Lung is really calm. All of a sudden, a slightly teasing voice rang in Lung Ruoxue's ears. When she heard the voice, she turned around to look at the owner of the voice. The owner of the voice was a man who looked to be in his early 30s. The man was very handsome and tall, but his pair of slightly dark eyes destroyed his overall temperament. This man had some similarities with the master of the Yin family, so it was not difficult to guess the relationship between the two. If she had not guessed wrongly, this person should be the Elder Bang that the guard had mentioned. Furthermore, this Elder Bang had the strength of a god king, as expected of someone from the 8 great divine regions. Miss Lung, have you seen enough? Are you satisfied with me? When Yin Bang saw that Lung Ruoxue was only sizing him up without saying anything, he couldn't help but tease her. What a pity! His father had taken a fancy to this woman. Otherwise, he would have definitely snatched her away. However, he would not dare to touch his father's woman even if he had 10 guts. Therefore, he could only satisfy his craving with his eyes. Who are you? Lung Ruoxue ignored the teasing in the other party's words and asked, even though she knew what was going on. I'm Yin Bang, one of the elders of the Yin family. Yin Bang introduced himself. Oh, didn't you say that you wanted me to be a witness? This is the Yin clan's prison? Lung Ruoxue had only just heard of Yin Bang's name from Xian Er's mouth when she was playing dumb. To see him in person so quickly, this member of the Yin family really couldn't help but think about him. How could this be the Yin clan's prison? Yin Bang said helplessly. Since this isn't a prison cell, why did those guards bring me here? You clearly told me to be a witness, but I don't know what rule Grape and Lotus Seed have broken, and you still want me to be a witness. Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. It was my idea to invite Miss Lung here. Before we go to the prison, I have a few words to say to Miss Lung. Yin Bang said with a smile. If you have something to say, please speak. Lung Ruoxue suppressed the impatience in her heart and replied politely. Even though she did not know what Yin Bang was up to, she was certain that it was not something good. Otherwise, why would he have sneakily asked someone to bring her to such a remote courtyard? This fellow clearly had no good intentions. She was on high alert. Chapter 1431. You're sitting in my seat. 1. It's like this. Grape and lotus seed stole the things that the clan had given to young Lady Lung and were caught by us. However, those 2 maidservants stubbornly said that you gave them. Therefore, I specially sent someone to invite young Lady Lung to be a witness. I know that young Lady Lung is kind-hearted. Although they have been serving you these days, I don't hope that young Lady Lung will shield them. Otherwise, I can't explain it to the clan. If everyone in the clan follows suit in the future, wouldn't the Yin clan be in chaos? Yin Bang said, his heart aching. What did they steal? Lung Ruoxue had a puzzled look on her face. Based on her understanding of the 2 maidservants, they shouldn't be such people. Besides, even if they really liked something, they didn't have to steal it. Basically, the things that they took from the head butler, the things that they didn't need, were all given to them. When the time comes, Miss Lung will know. The reason why I told Miss Lung these things in private was that I hoped that Miss Lung would not cover up for them out of goodwill. If that were the case, I would not be able to answer to my clansmen. Yin Bang reminded with a smile. Don't worry. If they really did take something I don't know, I won't cover for them. Lung Ruoxue promised. She finally understood what Elder Yin was trying to say. He was telling her not to cover up for them. However, this fellow was not willing to reveal what they had taken. Wasn't this too strange? Since Miss Lung has said so, I am relieved. Ibang said. Since Elder Yin is at ease, can you take me to see my 2 maidservants now? Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Of course. This way please, Miss Lung. Yin Bang invited him in a gentlemanly manner, and the 2 of them walked towards the prison cell. When they arrived at the prison cell, Lung Ruoxue did not even look at Yin Bang and walked straight in. The Yin family's prison cell was located to the north of the Yin family's main residence. The prison cell could be considered clean, but there was still a faint smell. There weren't many people locked up in the cell at the moment. Lung Ruoxue didn't ask Yin Bang where Grape and Lotus Seed were locked up. She searched from the beginning. After searching through a few cells, she only found traces of Grape and Lotus Seed when she reached the 10th cell. Grapes and Lotus Seeds. Lung Ruoxue looked at the 2 men who were tied to the wooden pole and covered in wounds. The anger in her heart was instantly ignited. Damn it, who was the one who hit them? Before things were clear, they had been beaten to such a state. At this time, Lotus Seed had already fainted, and Grape only had a trace of consciousness left. The clothes on the 2 of them had long been torn and tattered, and the skin on their bodies was not in good condition. After hearing Lung Ruoxue's voice, Grape endured the pain and opened his eyes that were swollen like peaches. He called out weakly, Miss, what are you doing here? Quickly leave this place. This is a trap. After that, Grape also fainted. When Lung Ruoxue heard Grape's words, she turned around and looked at Yin Bang who had already walked to her side. She said with a half-smile, Elder Bang, why did you beat up the 2 maidservants who served me? What crime did they commit to deserve such a heavy punishment? Men, who did this? When Yin Bang heard Lung Ruoxue's question, he hurriedly called for the guards and asked. To be honest, he didn't order anyone to beat up the 2 maidservants. Therefore, after seeing their injuries, he was extremely puzzled. He didn't want to be misunderstood by this beauty in front of him, so he naturally had to clarify everything. It should be Miss Lan. The guard said with a little fear. The 2 maidservants had suffered such heavy injuries, and as guards, they had failed in their duties. Therefore, they were very afraid that they would be punished, so they naturally did not hide the truth for Xiao Lan. Miss Lan? Could it be that young Lady Lan's authority in the Yin clan is so great that she can enter and leave any place she wants, and can beat the Yin clan's maidservants as she wishes? Lung Ruoxue sneered. This was clearly incited by someone. At this time, that person still dared to play dumb in front of her. Did he really think she was a 3-year-old child? This, Lung Ruoxue's sharp questioning made Yin Bang break out in a cold sweat. He knew that Xiao Lan had used his name to enter the room. However, he had warned Xiao Lan not to act rashly before he had convicted the 2 maidservants. He did not expect that Xiao Lan's desire for revenge was so strong that she had ignored his warning and sneaked into the prison. She had even beaten them up so badly. Now, he had no way of explaining it to the elders. This was big trouble. At this time, he really hated Xiao Lan, that woman who failed in her work and was good at causing trouble. She was really a big-breasted but brainless person. Elder Bang, do you have nothing to say? Although I'm not from the Yin clan, these two maidservants were arranged for me by your clan head, so they're my people. Now that you've seriously injured my maidservants without even knowing the reason, you must give me an explanation for this matter, or rather, are you trying to force a confession out of me? Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. Miss Lung, I really don't know why Xiao Lan would come here. Yin Bang explained guiltily. Now that everyone in the Yin family knew that Xiao Lan was staying with him, his words were not very convincing, especially under Lung Ruoxue's burning gaze. His heart felt weak. This woman seemed to be even more beautiful and soul-stirring when she was angry. You don't know. I've heard that Elder Bang has brought Xiao Lan's family to his own home, and now you're telling me you don't know? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but laugh. Her beautiful face was filled with mockery. I also saw that they were quite pitiful after being chased out by the acting clan head, so I kindly took them in temporarily. I really didn't expect Xiao Lan to come to the prison and beat up these two maidservants. Yin Bang racked his brain for an excuse, so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. Elder Bang is really kind-hearted. I wonder if there are any homeless people in the divine realm. Why don't you bring them all to live with you, Elder Bang? Lung Ruoxue suggested with a smile. How can this be the same? Yin Bang said, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. What's different? Xiao Lan's family didn't seem to need Elder Bang's help, right? If Elder Bang is so enthusiastic about helping them, then we should do even more for the other homeless people. Lung Ruoxue said with a light smile. Chapter 1432, You're sitting in my seat, too. Xiao Lan's family is in-laws after all, and those homeless people have nothing to do with me. Yin Bang explained helplessly. In-law? They don't seem to be your in-laws. Since it has nothing to do with you, yet you're still so enthusiastic, you must be a kind-hearted person. In that case, help more homeless people. Lung Ruoxue suggested. Miss Lung. Yin Bang was about to explain, but before he could, he was interrupted by a furious roar. Yin Bang, were you the one who ordered the arrest? Yin Ping's tall figure appeared at the door of the cell. After seeing Yin Ping, he immediately shouted. When Lung Ruoxue and Yin Bang heard the roar, they looked in the direction of the sound at the same time. Yin Bang's face darkened while Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with curiosity. Sister, this guy didn't do anything to you, right? At this moment, Yin Xian, who was behind Yin Ping, ran to Lung Ruoxue's side and held her hand to check it up and down, as if she was afraid that Yin Bang would hurt her. Lung Ruoxue could not help but laugh when she saw this. It was already good enough that she did not bully others. That would give others the chance to bully her. Xue, are you all right? Xiao Lin also walked over and asked with concern. Madam Yin. I'm fine, Elder Bang was quite polite to me. Lung Ruoxue's tone was gentle, unlike how she had been aggressive towards Yin Bang. That's good. Xiao Lin and Yin Xian nodded in relief. Then, they turned to glare at Yin Bang and said fiercely, Elder Bang, what are you trying to do? Mistress. It's not that I want to do anything, but these two maidservants have violated the clan rules, so I had no choice but to order people to lock them up. I invited Miss Lung here only to let her be a witness. Why are you so nervous? Yin Bang said with a smile. Why didn't I, the acting head of the family, know that they broke the family rules? Yin Ping walked over and asked coldly. This matter was decided at the last minute after a discussion between several elders. If the acting patriarch has any questions, you can ask the other elders. I'm just an executor. Yin Bang said, pushing the matter away. Why don't the elders need to go through me, the acting master, for their decision? Are you guys not putting me in your eyes? Yin Ping half squinted his eyes and said with slight displeasure. Acting patriarch, this is only a small matter. Why are you so calculative? Yin Bang said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I can see from this small matter that you don't care about the acting family head at all. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly. Miss Lung, of course we can't take the acting family head seriously. We do take him seriously. Yin Bang said, holding back his anger. He was furious that Lung Ruoxue had added fuel to the fire. However, he had no choice but to hold it in because Lung Ruoxue was the master's subordinate. Oh really? How come I didn't feel it? Clan head Yin Dai, Grape and Lotus Seed are now considered my people, but Elder Bang locked them up in prison without any explanation and even had people beat them until they were on the verge of death. Shouldn't your Yin clan give me an explanation for this? Lung Ruoxue turned her gaze towards Yin Ping. These two maidservants are from our Yin clan. How could they be your people? When Yin Bang heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he quickly reminded her. Didn't I tell you that they were sent to me by your master? Of course, they're my people. However, when you arrested them, you didn't ask for my permission. You even ordered them to be tortured and forced to confess. You have to give me an explanation for this. Otherwise, you'll have to go to your master to judge. Lung Ruoxue threatened calmly. I didn't ask anyone to hit them. Yin Bang quibbled. You didn't order anyone to beat them, so how dare the guards let Xiao Lan in? Xiao Lan now has you backing her up, so I don't think those guards would dare to offend you. Lung Ruoxue asked with a look of understanding. Xiao Lan hit them? Yin Ping's eyes followed the prison door and looked in. Sure enough, he saw two unconscious servant girls, their bodies covered in wounds, not one was intact. Suddenly, the anger in his heart surged up. Yes, I am. Lung Ruoxue nodded. How did Cousin Lan get into the prison? Yin Xian asked in a cold voice. These days, she often went to Mingxi Garden, so she got along quite well with Grape and Lotus Seed. Now, seeing them on the verge of death, she was a little angry. According to reason, unless there was an elder or her father's order, even the clansmen could not easily enter the prison of the Yin family. However, looking at the current situation, not only did Xiao Lan enter, but she also almost beat them to death. We'll have to ask Elder Bang about this. Lung Ruoxue laughed coldly. This is none of my business. Hurry up and explain to the acting patriarch clearly, how did Xiao Lan get in? Don't you know the rules of the Yin clan? How can you let Xiao Lan in? After hearing the conversation between Yin Xian and Lung Ruoxue, Yin Bang shouted angrily at the guard. Elder Bang, Miss Xiao has your token in her hand. She said that you asked her to interrogate the two maidservants, so I let her in. The guard quickly told the truth. So that's how it is. Now, Elder Bang had nothing to say. I only found out today that the members of the Yin clan who committed a crime could be interrogated by outsiders. I've really learned a lot. Lung Ruoxue smiled faintly, her beautiful face full of admiration. How could I give Xiao Lan any token, let alone let her interrogate the people of our Yin clan? Do you have any brains? Yin Bang berated the guard. Then he smiled at Lung Ruoxue and the rest. She must have stolen my token and come to the prison to take revenge. This has nothing to do with me. You must believe me. Does it matter if we believe it or not? Elder Bang, Xiao Lan is one of your people, and now she has used your token to injure my maidservant. You must give me an explanation for this, or else. I won't let this go. Lung Ruoxue's beautiful face darkened. I've already said that this matter has nothing to do with me. Furthermore, Xiao Lan is not one of my people. She's the niece of the acting clan head. Yin Bang said. Elder Bang, are you even a man? As everyone knows, Xiao Lan is currently living at your place. If she's not yours, then who is? As a man and an elder of the Yin family, if he didn't take responsibility, how would he convince the public in the future? The many clansmen of the Yin clan will be disappointed in you. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she reminded him. Chapter 1433, You're sitting in my seat. 3. Sister is right. My father had already asked my cousin's family to leave the Yin family, but you brought them back. Now that something has happened, you want to push it all away? No way. Yin Xian said angrily. Elder Bang, since you've invited me here to be a witness, I want to know what mistake they've committed. What did you steal from me again? Lung Ruoxue continued to ask. The two of them are not clean. They secretly hid the spirit mist fruit that the head butler gave to Miss Lung. Yin Bang said, feigning calmness. Spirit mist fruit? The spirit mist fruits in their hands were given to them by me. However, they have never been willing to eat them. I can't even reward the maidservant with something that was given to me? Lung Ruoxue asked coldly. Miss Lung, do you know how expensive the spirit mist fruit is? How could he give it to two maidservants? I know you're kind and want to protect them, but this matter can't be settled just by admitting it. Yin Bang reminded. Right now, he was already a little angry with Lung Ruoxue. Lung Ruoxue had clearly promised that she wouldn't shield them, but now, she was still standing on the side of the two maidservants. This made him feel a little embarrassed and angry. I already said that I gave it to them, and this is not allowed? It seems that Elder Bang wants to kill those two maidservants. I really don't know what kind of deep hatred Elder Bang has with Grape and Lotus Seed. They are just two maidservants of the Yin clan. They shouldn't be able to offend you. Of course, if you want to stand up for Miss Xiao Lan, then it's another matter. However, the one who bit Xiao Lan was my beastie, so if you want her to take revenge, she should come at me instead. What kind of skill is it to use your own maidservant as cannon fodder? Lung Ruoxue's face was full of disdain, and her beautiful eyes that were spitting fire made Yin Bang's heart beat wildly. Miss Lung, you've misunderstood me. Xiao Lan isn't anyone to me, so why would I stand up for her? When Yin Bang heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he looked at Yin Ping nervously before explaining. Clan head Yin Dai, what do you say about this? Lung Ruoxue ignored the irresponsible Yin Bang and turned to Yin Ping. They'll call for a meeting of the elders, and well make a fair decision. Yin Ping suppressed the anger in his heart. However, this matter involves me and my two maidservants, so I request to participate in your elders' meeting. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. You're not a member of the Yin family, so how can you participate in our Yin family's elder meeting? Yin Bang said disapprovingly. Even Xiao Lan can enter and exit the Yin family's prison cell as she pleases. Why can't I participate in the Yin family's elder meeting? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. I've said it before, my token was stolen. I didn't let her in. Yin Bang's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he explained. He was quite annoyed that Lung Ruoxue would not let go of this point. Elder Bang has a mouth, so he can say whatever he wants. Besides, you said that your token was stolen, but do you have any evidence? Have you reported it? Or perhaps, the theft of the token is not a big deal in your Yin clan, and there is no need to report it? Lung Ruoxue chuckled as she retorted. The elder's token has been lost, we must report it. Yin Ping, who had been listening to their conversation, suddenly said, I heard from the guard that Xiao Lan took my token and entered the cell. That's when I found out that the token was lost, and I didn't have time to report it. Yin Bang quickly said. When Lung Ruoxue heard Yin Bang's words, she didn't say anything. She only looked at Yin Bang with a smile that wasn't a smile. Her gaze made Yin Bang's hair stand on end because her gaze was too sharp. Substitute clan head, I request to attend your elders' meeting. Lung Ruoxue said to Yin Ping. All right, he said. Yin Ping nodded his head as he sized up Lung Ruoxue. This was probably the first time he had seen a woman that his wife and daughter had praised so much. It was just as they had said, she was a rather impressive woman. Not only did she have a beautiful face, but she was also so eloquent that it made one feel fear. However, when he saw Yin Bang being dumbfounded by her questioning, he was extremely happy. Acting clan head. How could this be? She's an outsider. Seeing that Yin Ping had agreed, Yin Bang quickly reminded him. Lung Ruoxue was too powerful. He didn't dare to imagine how she would force the elders to attend the elders' meeting. Xiao Lan is also an outsider. She'll also be attending this meeting. Yin Ping said indifferently. Why did you let Xiao Lan participate? She doesn't have the qualifications. When Yin Bang heard that Xiao Lan was going to participate, he immediately became anxious. Elder Bang, don't be anxious. Didn't your token get stolen? Let's question him face to face and see what's going on. In case someone confesses under torture again. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Then she said to Yin Ping, substitute family head Yin, please release these two maidservants first. I can prove that they did not steal anything. If the things that Elder Bang said they stole were the spirit fog fruits, then those fruits were given to them by me. All right. Yin Ping nodded his head and immediately motioned for the guards to carry the two maidservants who were covered in injuries out of the cell. Seeing this, Yin Xian took out 2 healing elixirs and wanted to feed them to the grape and lotus seeds. However, she was stopped by Leng Ruoxue. Xian, don't treat their injuries first. These injuries are all evidence. I just want to let the Yin family see how serious the crime they have committed is to be beaten up like this. Yes. Yin Xian nodded her head and kept the pill. She knew that her sister was really angry. After ordering the guards to use a single rack to carry the grapes and lotus seeds, Leng Ruoxue and her group left the cell and walked towards the Yin family's meeting hall. On the way, Yin Bang tried to find an excuse to leave several times, but Leng Ruoxue kept a tight watch on him. He could not leave even if he wanted to, and could only worry in his heart. Seeing how anxious Yin Bang was, Yin Xian and Shaolin couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. He deserved it. Who asked him to come up with such a thing? Of all people to provoke, he had to provoke Leng Ruoxue. One must know that from the first time they saw Leng Ruoxue, they knew that this lazy-looking woman who seemed to be indifferent to everything was not someone to be trifled with. After everyone walked to the meeting hall, Yin Ping ordered his subordinates to invite the elders in the main residence to come for a meeting. Of course, he did not forget to send someone to bring Shaolan. In the meeting hall, Leng Ruoxue casually found a chair and sat down, waiting for the elders to arrive. The seat she was sitting on was the second seat to Yin Ping's left. According to the Yin family's ranking arrangement, that should be the seat of the elder who was ranked 3rd in the Elder Council. However, now that she had sat there, the elder who was sitting there naturally had to change his seat. Initially, Yin Ping wanted to remind Leng Ruoxue when he saw her sitting there. However, he remembered that the 3rd elder and Yin Bang had always been in the same boat, so he didn't bother to say anything. Besides, he also wanted to see what kind of ability this mid-level deity woman had to make his father bring her back. Since he didn't raise any objections to Leng Ruoxue's position, Shaolin and Yin Xian naturally wouldn't say anything. However, just because they didn't say anything, it didn't mean that others wouldn't. When Yin Bang saw Leng Ruoxue sitting in the 3rd elder's seat, he reminded her, "Miss Leng, there's someone sitting there." "Oh really? I've taken a fancy to this seat. Get him to sit somewhere else," Leng Ruoxue said in an overbearing manner. When Yin Bang heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he could not catch his breath and almost passed out. Where did this woman come from? It was fine if she didn't put him, a god king, in her eyes, but who asked her to be his father's woman? However, even 3rd elder did not take her seriously. Wasn't Leng Ruoxue a little too bold? One had to know that 3rd elder's seniority in the clan was much higher than the acting family head, Yin Ping. This woman was simply too arrogant. However, her domineering aura was really pleasing to the eye no matter how he looked at it. It was as if she was born like this. This was really too strange. Who's so bold as to ask me to change seats? All of a sudden, a loud roar was heard outside the meeting hall. Then, the door of the meeting hall was pushed open and dozens of elders walked in. Most of these elders were men, and the words just now were spoken by a man who was surrounded by them. This man looked to be in his 40s. Compared to the other members of the Yin clan, he was not considered very handsome. However, his aura and strength were not low. According to Qing Ju's voice transmission to Leng Ruoxue, this man had the strength of a divine emperor. His strength was definitely one of the best among the elders. Furthermore, he had deliberately added his own pressure to his words. It was clear that he wanted to use this to frighten Leng Ruoxue. However, what surprised him was that the woman sitting in his seat seemed to not feel his pressure and still sat in the chair, which made him a little embarrassed. Moreover, he was very sure that he had added pressure in his words. Looking at Yin Xian's pale face, he knew that if it was not for Yin Ping protecting her, Yin Xian would definitely have suffered internal injuries. 3rd elder, you've really gone too far. Leng Ruoxue didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, Yin Ping was the first to get angry because his daughter's cultivation wasn't high. If it wasn't for him by her side, how could she have withstood the divine sovereign's pressure? Acting patriarch, can't you tell if it's me or someone else who's going too far? Since when did our Yin family let a woman ride on our heads? And she's a woman who came out of nowhere. The third elder glared at Yin Ping with a venomous snake-like gaze. As a deity emperor, his divine consciousness was naturally incomparably powerful. If he had the intention to observe, everything that happened in the Yin family would not be hidden from him. Therefore, everything that happened in the prison was within his grasp, including the meeting hall. Thus, before he even walked in, he added his own pressure into his voice in anger, so as to give Leng Ruoxue, Yin Ping, and the others a chance to back down. However, he still miscalculated. Third elder, no matter what dissatisfaction you have, you shouldn't have added pressure into your voice. If she and Xian were to be harmed in any way, the family head will not let you off. Yin Ping knew that he wasn't third elder's match, so he could only bring up his own father. Then the family head can't just watch me, the third elder, be bullied by an outsider. The third elder said coldly, "Is this the third elder? I wonder how I've bullied you?" Leng Ruoxue asked with a pure and innocent look. "You're sitting in my seat," the third elder warned. Chapter 1434, Hostage Exchange 1. This is considered bullying you? Leng Ruoxue left. In her entire life, this was the first time she realized that sitting in someone else's seat was considered bullying, even though she was sitting there on purpose. Our Yin clan is a clan that places great importance on rules and etiquette. You, a junior, actually dare to be so arrogant in front of an expert. This is really preposterous. The third elder growled as he suppressed his anger. If this woman wasn't related to the patriarch, he would have. What the Yin clan values has nothing to do with me. Although I'm much younger than you, it has nothing to do with you even if I'm a junior. So, don't call yourself an expert in front of me. You're only a divine emperor, not an expert. If you want to be an expert, wait until you become a reverent god or a divine master. Leng Ruoxue said with a look of disdain. The moment her words left her mouth, it immediately caused a series of gasps. No one from the Yin clan, including Yin Ping's family, had thought that Leng Ruoxue would be so arrogant. Even though the Yin clan did not dare to claim that the third elder could control the sky with one hand, he could almost call the wind and summon the rain. However, in the eyes of this woman, he was actually worthless. Not to mention the emperor god, anyone else would be furious if they were in her place. As expected, the moment Leng Ruoxue finished her sentence, the red-faced third elder roared in anger, "What an ignorant junior! Today, I'll let you witness this elder's strength." With that, the third elder raised his hand. A trace of divine power gathered in his palm and he was about to attack Leng Ruoxue when a red light flashed. He felt a numbing sensation in his hand and his arm drooped down. It was only then that the crowd could see clearly that the red light that had flashed past Leng Ruoxue's wrist was a fiery red, crystal-clear snake. It turned out that the third elder had been bitten by the snake. In an instant, everyone could only watch as the third elder's arm turned black. This was clearly a sign of poisoning. Seeing this, the third elder hurriedly used his divine power to force the poison out of his arm through the wound. By the time the poison had subsided and his arm had slowly returned to its original color, he was already drenched in sweat and panting. The third elder, who had forced out the poison, was extremely shocked. He kept cursing in his heart. What kind of venomous snake was this? The poison was actually so powerful. Even though he had managed to force the poison out, his arm was still numb and he could not feel anything. However, because of his fear of the little snake, he did not dare to attack Leng Ruoxue rashly. However, Leng Ruoxue's next words almost angered him to death. "Little fire, are your teeth hurting? That person's skin is rough and thick, so it's not easy to bite him." Leng Ruoxue gently stroked fiery soft scales as she asked with a smile. "My teeth almost fell off. The divine emperor's skin is indeed thick enough, and his meat is not delicious." Little Fire nodded its little head and said in an extremely serious manner, In that case, try to bite less divine emperors in the future. I think it should be easier to bite divine kings. Lung Ruoxu's beautiful eyes glanced at Yin Bang as she spoke. When Yin Bang heard her words and felt her gaze, he subconsciously lowered his head to hide his presence. His heart was constantly muttering, "Fuck. This woman was beautiful, but why was her heart so vicious?" He actually wanted that snake to bite him. That was really too evil. Women. The strength of a divine king is too low, so I can't satisfy myself by biting him. Although the skin of a divine emperor is a bit thick, it's still a challenge for me. So, I'll bite the divine emperor. Fiery thought for a moment and said, Then bite the emperor god. There seems to be quite a few deity emperors in the Yin clan that are enough for you to bite. However, Little Fire, we can bite people, but we have to run immediately after biting them. Otherwise, if they catch you, they'll definitely make you into soup. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with an evil smile. When the crowd heard the conversation between the man and the beast, they were so angry that they almost vomited blood. There were many deity emperors among the crowd, and Lung Ruoxue had clearly incited her beast to bite them. Furthermore, it was the kind of beast that would run away after biting them. With the little red snake's speed, even if they were deity emperors, it would not be easy for them to catch it. Otherwise, Third Elder would not have been bitten. Although they were all divine emperors, there were differences in their strength. The Third Elder might not be the strongest among the divine emperors, but he was definitely one of the best. If even he could not do anything to the little red snake, then wouldn't they all be waiting to be bitten? At the thought of this, all the immortal Emperor Elders became depressed. They couldn't help but glance at the Third Elder, hoping that he could stand up for them. After all, among all the elders, the First Elder was always in closed-door cultivation, and the Second Elder was also in closed-door cultivation. The Third Elder was the most powerful one. Therefore, they could only pin their hopes on him. Third Elder, who was alone in his depression, felt the eager gazes of the other elders, but he didn't want to get involved at this time, so he could only choose to ignore them. When Yin Ping heard Lung Ruoxu's words and saw the expressions of the elders, he felt a heartfelt admiration for Lung Ruoxue. However, due to his status, he didn't dare to show it. He could only sigh in his heart. This woman was indeed brought back by father. Truly too formidable. Not only was he able to maintain a straight face in front of the Third Elder, who had the strength of a peak-grade deity emperor, he even agreed for his own beastie to bite the other elders, Wu. If it was someone else, they definitely wouldn't have the guts to do this. After all, this was the Yin residence. Although Yin Ping did not dare to show his admiration for Lung Ruoxue, Yin Xian did not have such concerns. Her eyes were fixed on Lung Ruoxue and Xiaohua, not even blinking. If it was not for Xiao Lin who gently pushed her, she would have rushed to Lung Ruoxue and Xiaohua and exclaimed, "Idol!" However, it was better to keep a low profile in such a tense moment. Even though Lung Ruoxue was talking to Xiaohua, she did not miss the expressions of any of the Yin clan's members. She glanced at the silent Third Elder of the Yin clan and smiled faintly. "Third Elder, can you give this position to me? Weren't there 2 better seats in front? You can sit there," she suggested kindly. Chapter 1435. The Confrontation, 2. When the elders heard Lung Ruoxu's suggestion, a few drops of cold sweat dripped down their foreheads. They thought to themselves, this woman is really too evil. Can she just sit on those 2 seats? If Third Elder really sat down, it wouldn't take long for news to spread that Third Elder had the intention to replace First Elder and Second Elder. If this reached the ears of those 2, Third Elder's good days would probably come to an end. She was clearly bullying Third Elder. I really don't know how Third Elder provoked her, sigh. No wonder people often say that only women and villains are difficult to raise. It seemed that he could offend anyone but a woman. All the elders were sighing in their hearts. When Third Elder heard Lung Ruoxu's suggestion, he could not catch his breath and almost passed out. Third Elder coughed nonstop, and his face had turned dark red. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue quickly instructed Yin Bang. Elder Bang, the third elder doesn't seem to be in a good condition right now. You should quickly go and help him. This is a great opportunity for you to perform. Don't miss it. Lung Ruoxue's words made Yin Bang roll his eyes. He thought to himself, with your words, I can't help even if I wanted to. Otherwise, others would think that he was taking the opportunity to show off. Such rumors were not good for his reputation. Seeing that Yin Bang did not move, Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes gently swept towards the other elders. When the elders received her gaze, they actually all turned their heads away in unison. It was obvious that no one had any intention of doing anything good at this time. Seeing this, she smiled faintly and said, It seems that the third elder is not very popular. You're in so much pain right now, but no one is willing to help you. Poor thing. Lung Ruoxue's sarcastic words caused third elder to cough even harder. In order to prevent third elder from losing his temper, Yin Ping hurriedly gave a look to the guards beside him. The guards understood and helped third elder, who was coughing badly, to find a seat and sit down. All the elders, please sit down. Yin Ping said indifferently. The third elder's seat had been taken by Lung Ruoxue, and third elder had taken another elder's seat. Hence, the elder who had taken the seat could only swallow his anger and stand to the side. Who asked him to not offend either the third elder or Lung Ruoxue. Third elder's strength and status were both above his, so he naturally didn't dare to offend him. As for Lung Ruoxue, even if she didn't have the family head's support, she could still rely on that little snake that could even bite third elder to the point where he couldn't even fight back. This was enough to make his heart tremble with fear. Who would dare to provoke this tigress? After the elders sat down, Yin Ping slowly opened his mouth again. I've gathered all the elders today mainly because I have a few things to discuss with all of you. As for how to deal with it, well, still follow the old rules. The minority is subordinate to the majority. Acting patriarch, what is it? An anxious elder couldn't help but ask. First of all, Elder Bang said that he lost his token. I've only just found out about this. He didn't report it to the clan immediately after he lost his token. How do you think we should handle this, elders? After a pause, Yin Ping continued. Master, I only just found out that I lost my token. I told you immediately after I found out. How can you say that I didn't report it? Hearing Yin Ping's words, Yin Bang quickly defended. Elder Bang, you even lost your personal token. You're too careless. I wonder where you lost it? Lung Ruoxue's voice rang indifferently in Elder Bang's ears. What does this have to do with you? This is our Yin clan's internal affairs. Don't interrupt. Yin Bang roared in anger. I'm just raising my own doubts. Since I'm able to attend your elder council today, it means that I have the right to speak, right? The head of the clan. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she asked Yin Ping Dao, who was sitting on the main seat. This Yin Ping wasn't stupid. He knew that if he took Yin Bang's token first, he would not be able to explain himself. Yin Ping nodded and then said to Yin Bang, Elder Bang, please answer Miss Lung's question truthfully. I also want to know where you lost the token, and how did you lose it? Acting clan head. My token can't be considered lost. It should have been stolen by someone when I was unprepared. Yin Bang thought for a moment, his heart filled with hatred towards Yin Ping and Lung Ruoxue. These two were obviously trying to get him to reveal the whereabouts of the token. How despicable. Now, he was very clear that no matter what he said, he would be found by these two and further lure him into the trap. Who stole it? Yin Ping asked despite knowing the answer. Shouldn't the acting family head be very clear about who stole it? Yin Bang said with a smile. Elder Bang, we don't care if you lost or stole your token, or if you gave it away. I just want to know who could have stolen the Divine King's personal token. If it was lost, what else did you lose, Elder Bang? Did you lose your storage ring? Before Yin Ping could speak, Lung Ruoxue rushed to question him. The moment Lung Ruoxue's words left her mouth, all the elders present started to secretly discuss in hushed voices. This matter is strange. You think it's abnormal too? It's more than abnormal. The tokens are all kept in the storage ring. Can't you see that Elder Bang is still wearing that storage ring? How could he have lost the token? He probably lent it to someone else. The elders whispered to each other, and no matter how soft their voices were, they couldn't escape the ears of the people present. When Yin Bang heard the suspicions of the elders, his face turned red and white in anger, and he panted heavily. Elders, please calm down. Today, something strange happened in your Yin family's prison. Lung Ruoxue smiled as she spoke. What is it? An elder asked cooperatively. Xiao Lan, who has been invited out of the Yin clan by your acting patriarch, actually entered the cell with Elder Bang's personal token and tortured the 2 maidservants who served me. According to the guard, she was interrogating the people who had made mistakes on behalf of the Yin clan. Although the 2 maidservants don't have much status in the Yin clan, they are still part of the Yin clan. I want to know if the people who have broken the clan rules are interrogated by outsiders? Lung Ruoxue asked the elders with a face full of doubt. Chapter 1436, The Confrontation, 3. How is this possible? How could Xiao Lan be so bold? Who's supporting her? After hearing Lung Ruoxue's words, one of the elders immediately shouted angrily. Xiao Lan is the substitute clan head's maternal niece. The people who will support her are, of course, the substitute clan head and the mistress. An elder reminded. The person who said this was naturally someone who had a good relationship with Yin Bang and knew the truth. The purpose of his words was to drag Yin Ping into the water and reduce the dissatisfaction and suspicion the elders had towards Yin Bang. Elder, did you not hear what I said? I've already said that Xiao Lan has been asked to leave the Yin clan by your acting clan head. As for where she is now, if you don't know, you can ask Elder Bang. He will tell you. Lung Ruoxue reminded him with a half-smile. Xiao Lan's family had been invited by Yin Bang to stay in their own courtyard temporarily. This matter was no longer a secret in the Yin family, so Lung Ruoxue did not believe that the person who had just spoken was not aware of it. However, whether he was really stupid or pretending to be stupid, it was useless in front of her. The elder who spoke was speechless. How could he continue with this? Elder Bang. It's not that I don't want to help you, but this woman is too powerful. I can't do anything about it. You're on your own. At the thought of this, he obediently shut his mouth. Elder Bang, where is Xiao Lan now? Seeing that the elder had stopped talking, Lung Ruoxue turned to Yin Bang and asked. Elder Bang, did you really bring Xiao Lan to your own residence? An elder asked in disbelief. He had also heard some rumors about this matter, but he had not seen it with his own eyes. Now that everyone was curious, he might as well ask. I took pity on her, so I took her in out of kindness, but I didn't expect that she would steal my token and injure the 2 maidservants in the prison. Yin Bang said with regret. Elder Bang, you're a god king, right? Lung Ruoxue asked with a smile. So what if I am? Yin Bang coldly replied. Although god kings are not the strongest in the divine realm, they are still one of the strongest. You were actually able to let a woman who was not as strong as you steal your token. Could it be that your storage ring has developed intelligence and knew how to betray you with Xiao Lan's help? Lung Ruoxue asked with a face full of curiosity. Her beautiful eyes kept glancing at Yin Bang's storage ring, as if she was trying to see if the ring had developed a spirit. And her words made Yin Xian couldn't help but laugh out loud. My sister is so amazing. She's my idol. Her heart was filled with excitement. Her eyes were fixed on Lung Ruoxue, afraid that she would miss out on any interesting scene. Elder Bang, what is your explanation for this lattice words? Seeing that Yin Bang did not respond for a long time, an anxious elder could not help but ask. Yin Bang didn't know how to explain. It seemed useless to say that Xiao Lan was Yin Ping's niece. These elders weren't stupid. How could they believe him so easily? He was really depressed and conflicted. Don't make things difficult for Elder Bang. He's so embarrassed to say it, so I guess this matter is also quite embarrassing for him. It's possible that Xiao Lan used a honey trap, and Elder Bang fell for it when he wasn't paying attention. Lung Ruoxue laughed. Why were they the ones making things difficult for Elder Bang? The one who had made things difficult for Elder Bang and left him speechless was clearly this woman in front of him. When the elders heard Lung Ruox's words, they couldn't help but curse in their hearts. However, at this time, there were fewer and fewer elders who wanted to speak up for Yin Bang. Even Elder Bang, who had always been eloquent, was rendered speechless by Lung Ruox's questioning. Of course, they couldn't take the initiative to give themselves up to be questioned by others. Furthermore, they were very sure that they would definitely not be able to win against Lung Ruoxue. Sister, whether Xiao Lan used the honey trap or not, and how she obtained the Grand Elder's medallion, we can just find out by asking her, right? At this time, Yin Xian, who had not said a word, reminded him. Xian Er's words make sense. Clan head Yin, can you invite Xiao Lan in now? However, it's best for Elder Bang to avoid it. After all, you're the person involved. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. Bring Xiao Lan in. Elder Bang, you can stay in the inner hall. Without my permission, you are not allowed to come out. After Yin Ping finished speaking, he gave a look to the guard beside him. Following that, the guard respectfully invited Elder Bang into the inner hall. The so-called inner hall referred to a closed single room in the meeting hall. The purpose of this room was to prevent the weaker party from being threatened by the other party and telling false information when such a thing happened. In the inner hall, even a reverent god couldn't know what was going on outside, let alone threaten the other party through voice transmission. This was also a kind of protection for the weaker party. After Yin Bang was unwillingly invited into the inner hall, Xiao Lan was brought up by a guard. Seeing that the meeting hall was filled with elders, the confused Xiao Lan was shocked. She did not know why she was here. Her beautiful eyes searched for Elder Bang's whereabouts but found nothing. Then, she suddenly noticed Lung Ruoxue and could not help but be filled with anger. What are you doing here? Xiao Lan looked at Lung Ruoxue as if she had seen her father's murderer. She immediately rushed in front of Lung Ruoxue and questioned her angrily. I'm here because of the opportunity Miss Lan gave me. Miss Lan. Don't just stand there, please take a seat. Lung Ruoxue pointed to the seat beside her. You're tactful. Xiao Lan did not even think twice before taking the seat that Lung Ruoxue had pointed out. When the elders saw this, they could not help but take a deep breath. They did not know what to say because that seat belonged to the great elder. Until now, no one had dared to sit there. Xiao Lan, you can't just sit there, get up. Seeing that Xiao Lan had really sat down, Yin Ping couldn't help but roar in anger. She was really brainless. No wonder Lung Ruoxue didn't even care about her. He had always thought that Xiao Lan was quite smart, but why did she seem so stupid when compared to Lung Ruoxue? It was really too strange. Why do you want me to get up? If she can sit here, why can't I? When Xiao Lan heard Yin Ping's words, she said angrily, And he's my uncle. He actually caused her to be embarrassed in public. At this moment, she even hated Yin Ping, who she had been trying to please. That's the seat of the great elder, you can't sit there. Yin Ping gritted his teeth. Oh! When she heard that it was the seat of the great elder, Xiao Lan did not dare to continue sitting there. However, she remembered that it was Lung Ruoxue who had asked her to sit there, and the anger in her heart rushed up again. Damn it! You actually framed me? How did I frame you? I'm kind enough to let you sit down, yet you're blaming me. My good intentions really don't get rewarded. Lung Ruoxue sighed with a face full of hidden bitterness. This is the seat of the great elder, and you're asking me to sit here? If this isn't a trap, then what is? Xiao Lan asked angrily. I'm not a member of the Yin family, how would I know whose seat it is? I only saw that it was empty. It's fine even if it's empty, it doesn't matter who's sitting. If you don't want to sit here, you can just sit there. Lung Ruoxue pointed to the seat opposite her. That's the seat of the second elder, you can't sit there either. Before Xiao Lan could sit down, Yin Ping felt a headache coming on and quickly said, he could tell that Lung Ruoxue was clearly toying with Xiao Lan. It was a pity that Xiao Lan, who thought she was smart, didn't know. You are framing me again. Xiao Lan said angrily after hearing Yin Ping's words. I'm sorry, I didn't know that was the second elder's seat. All the seats are full now, why don't you stand for a while? After Yin Bang was brought into the inner hall of the meeting hall, there was originally an empty seat. However, it just so happened that the elder who was standing had taken it, so there really wasn't any space for Xuan to sit. However, it was obvious that she thought it would be better for Xuan to stand. After all, she had brought Xuan here to confront her. "Stand up, I want to sit in your seat," Xuan ordered in an overbearing manner. "My seat was given to me by the third elder. If he agrees, I can give this seat to you." Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. "Do you think I'm that easy to fool? How could the third elder possibly give his position to you?" Xuan said with a look of disbelief. Although she didn't believe it, she didn't dare to ask the third elder. "It's up to you to believe it or not." After Leng Ruoxue finished speaking, she turned her head and ignored Xuan, who was stomping her feet in anger. When they heard Leng Ruoxue's words, the elders present had a tacit understanding not to make any comments, lest they anger the depressed middle third elder. Xuan glared at Leng Ruoxue for a long time before turning to look at the elders present. Finally, she fixed her gaze on Shaolin and said with a wronged expression, "Aunt, how can you just watch me get bullied by outsiders? Cousin Lan, I invited you to the meeting hall to discuss a matter. So, it's better for you to stand." Yin Xian couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Hee." Her father's impression of Shaolin should be even worse now. His sister was really amazing. With just a few simple words, she was able to make Shaolin reveal her true colors. A hostage? What confrontation? Shaolin was confused. "You went to the prison and tortured my 2 maidservants, right?" Leng Ruoxue asked with a calm smile. "So what if I am? They violated the Yin clan's rules, and I went to interrogate them on behalf of Elder Bang. However, they were too stubborn and insisted that you were the one who rewarded them. I had no choice but to use torture." Shaolin said disapprovingly. "You used Elder Bang's token to enter the prison, right? I'm very curious, how did Elder Bang's token end up in your hands?" Leng Ruoxue did not argue with her and continued to ask. However, her question caused some of the elders present to feel anxious. Just as they were about to open their mouths to warn Shaolin not to speak nonsense, they were suddenly attacked by a red light that flew past them at high speed. Immediately, their mouths swelled up. They mumbled for a long time, but they could not say a complete sentence. After the red light finished attacking the unlucky elder, it flew back to Leng Ruoxue's wrist and wagged its little tail happily, as if it was very satisfied with its work. Leng Ruoxue gently stroked Xiaohu's soft scales as her beautiful eyes swept across the elders present. Just a casual glance had caused the pressure on them to increase. This was really too strange. None of the elders could understand why the other party, who was only a mid-level deity, would cause them to feel pressured. And this kind of pressure seemed to be innate. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.